Welcome to a meeting of your Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners. Representing District 1, Harry Cohen. Representing District 2, Ken Hagan. Representing District 3, Gwen Myers. Representing District 4, Michael Owen. Representing District 5, Donna Cameron Cepeda. Representing District 6, Pat Kemp. Representing District 7, Joshua Wostel. The County Administrator is Bonnie Wise. The County Attorney is Christine Beck. Time is set aside at the beginning of each meeting for citizens to speak on any issue. So we have time for everyone. Speakers are asked to limit their comments to 3 minutes. Today's meeting is brought to you with closed captioning by Hillsborough Television.
Good morning. Welcome to the September 7, 2023 regularly scheduled board meeting of the Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners. Would everyone please rise for the pledge and invocation given by our chaplain, Commissioner Cameron Cepeda.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Heavenly Father, we acknowledge you in all of our ways. We thank you for who you are and your great love that you have for all of us here. We ask you for your protection over all those that are serving in our military, law enforcement, firefighters, and first responders. We thank you, and we ask you to protect them as they are protecting others. And we pray for anyone in Hillsborough County, Lord, that has suffered any loss of loved ones. We pray for the peace of God that passes all understanding over their hearts and their minds. And we pray a special blessing that it is well with everyone in Hillsborough County in their spirit, soul, and body, in your holy name. Amen.
Thank you, Commissioner Cameron Cepeda. We have two special accommodations this morning, but before we do that, I'm going to read into the record from Commissioner Harry Cohen. Due to a scheduling conflict precipitated by the Labor Day holiday, I'm attending a meeting and budget public hearing at the Hillsborough County Aviation Authority this morning. At the conclusion of that meeting, I expect to travel downtown and join the BOCC meeting already in progress, hopefully by 10 a.m. Please read the reason for my absence into the record. And with that, Commissioner Cameron Cepeda will present our first commendation.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Would the following people please join me at the podium? Louis and Anita Capdevila, Pastor Tony Samuels, and Pastor Albert Capdevila. Good morning, and thank you all for being here today. It's an honor to welcome two people who I'm proud to call my dearest friends. Louis and Anita Capdevila are true leaders whose dedication and compassion to serve Hillsborough County and ministries around the world continue to be an inspiration to us all. It's amazing how much they have accomplished together, building churches, mentoring businesses, business owners, and ministers, authoring books, and so much more. Their service to their community helps make Hillsborough County such an incredible place to call home. It's a pleasure to present this commendation, which celebrates the life and good works of Louis and Anita Capdevila. And it reads, the Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners is pleased to recognize Louis and Anita Capdevila for their hard work and commitment to their ministries and the community. Since immigrating from Cuba in 1962, Louis Capdevila has served as a pillar to the Tampa Bay community. In addition to his unwavering dedication as owner of the well-known La Teresita restaurant for over 50 years, providing for thousands of clients, including elected officials, Mr. Capdevila has been instrumental in donating food and fundraising for numerous schools, churches, and for-profit and nonprofit organizations. For over 38 years, Louis and Anita Capdevila have pastored, authored, mentored, and partnered in leadership, and they personally helped countless ministries. Their commitment to helping legal immigrants establish themselves in Hillsborough County has been nothing short of amazing, especially providing work and housing opportunities to those seeking a new life. The couple is well known and revered as mentors to those who are now in successful businesses in the region, in addition to those who serve as pastors and teachers. Additionally, the state of Florida honored the Capdevila family by designating a street as Maximino Capdevila Road because of their extensive work and contribution to the community. Their devotion to their ministries is matched only by their love for their family, which includes their 3 children and 7 grandchildren, a testament to their ongoing mission to help Hillsborough County and its residents prosper. The Board of County Commissioners of Hillsborough County, Florida, does hereby commend Louis and Anita Capdevila for their commitment to service and wishes them many years of continued success this 7th day of September, 2023. Congratulations to you both. Congratulations to you both. Thank you. So, would you like to say a few words?
Yes. First of all, I want to thank God, and on behalf of Anita and myself, thank the commissioners, thank those that are attending, and thank God for Hillsborough County. This year's been a real exciting year for us. We celebrated 61 years in this country and 50 years in business, 40 years married, 91, my mom is 91 years old, and we're just so excited about everything. La Teresita and the Capdevila family. I have my brother here with me, and I got my brother from another mother here with me, and it's been a blessing. All right, we had so many testimonies, so many things that we tell people all the time that we celebrate life with people, and that's what we've done throughout the years. We've been given that calling and the privilege of being able. And I want to just share a couple of real quick testimonies. We have a man that's been working for us for now 43 years. His name is Abel Rocha. All right. Abel came back from the Morel boat lift. And today, Abel still works for us 3 days a week, and he owns 45 homes. All right. And my dad mentored him in the art of buying homes and properties and so forth. But we also have another spectrum. There was an elderly lady that ate at the restaurant for years, and every Sunday she would bring her children to church, from church to the restaurant. She passed away, and when they went to read the will, in the will it said, well, in order to collect your ongoing inheritance, you got to eat at the Teresita once a month. And it's just the way things have happened and the experiences that we have that are too many to mention. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Special day. It is an honor and a privilege to be here on this special day to honor 2 great people who have been and continue to be a blessing to those who call Hillsborough County home. Apostle Louis and Anita Capdevila, through their generosity, love, and compassion and faith, have left an indelible impact on many lives and communities in this region, even far beyond our borders. Their tireless work ethic, inexhaustible business knowledge, and sacrificial nature has helped them walk in the American dream. But this didn't stop with just them. They have been instrumental in helping countless others achieve the American dream as well. Apostle Louis and Anita Capdevila are 2 pillars of unshakable faith in our community. From their landmark restaurant to the pulpit, they have impacted many lives, and they deserve this special recognition today. We are forever grateful for their willingness to leave the 99 and to go after the one, as our story would not exist the way it does today if it had not been for their obedience to the Lord. Congratulations and well-deserved, Apostle Lewis and Anita Capdevila.
Good morning and God bless everyone. I'm Albert Capdevila, Lewis's younger brother. We were 4. There's 2 of us remaining. And what can I tell you? I've been with him those 61 years that we've been in this country, where my dad fled communism to bring his boys to a better place. It is such an honor to share this moment with Lewis and Anita and all that they have contributed and all that they have done. I have lived with them. I can tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly, but I'll stick to the good today. But he has been a blessing, and not only in his part and what him and Anita do in the community, what they've done. He is my older brother, but he's been my spiritual father for 40 years. Since I came to the Lord, he's mentored me. He took me under his wing. I am who I am today because someone who not only loved me as a brother, but raised me up to do the will and the work of God, and it's been a blessing to my life. They have both been a blessing. Anita had been my mentor in music and worship for many years. So you go through life going through things with people that you know, but in a different realm, and they're just such a blessing how they touch so many lives. I can tell you so many stories of the sacrifices that Apostle Lewis has done, where he has in years past, he doesn't do it anymore, or not that I know of anyway, but in years past, he would go into the crack houses, pulling out his spiritual children that were caught up on drugs, and he would go in neighborhoods that we would not enter into, and he would go in with the drug dealers and whatever and pull these people out, leading them to a better way, delivering them. And today, you know, they live different lives because someone paid the price, someone went the extra mile to teach them that there is a better way. So today I'm extremely proud of Lewis and Anita. I congratulate them. I thank the Board of Commissioners for this honor. And truly it's a privilege and it's an honor to have a brother that loves this community, loves people, and has a great track record of giving his life for others. So thank you so much for this award. Thank you. God bless.
Anybody else wants to come for a quick picture? Come on, guys, quick. Run.
Ain't none of you shy, so come on.
Nick. Slim limbs.
Thank you.
And now Commissioner Kemp will present our second commendation.
Thank you. And if I could be joined by Mr. C.J. Roberts, President and CEO of the Tampa Bay History Center, as well as Fred Hearns, the curator of Black History. If you could please join me up here. Thank you both. I'm so excited to be doing this morning. Good morning and welcome. Travails and Triumphs is a permanent exhibition at the Tampa Bay History Center that tells the 500-year story of how people of African descent have lived and labored in the Tampa Bay area. It additionally explores the communities and families they forged, the hardships they endured, the jobs they worked, the triumphs they celebrated. So I'm excited to present this recognition, which honors an exhibit that has become a vital addition to our cultural legacy. It reads in part, the Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners is pleased to recognize the Travails and Triumphs exhibition at the Tampa Bay History Center, an inspirational and artistic exploration of American culture in Hillsborough County. It's created by the staff at the Tampa Bay History Center and sponsored by Hillsborough County, TECO, and the Tampa Bay Lightning. Travails and Triumphs serves as a significant work of art that transports all visitors through 500 years of local African-American history. The exhibit's an important chronicle of the hardships of Black people and what they've faced over the centuries, in addition to serving as an insightful exploration of the achievements made by Black Tampa Bay area residents. The exhibition's powerful story begins on the West African coast. The historical journey then takes the viewer through 500 years of history to present at present day Hillsborough County. It includes items that focus on backgrounds of Howard Blake High School and George Middleton High School. I think with a special artifact, you can maybe mention personal at that exhibition. And it took over 3 years to conceptualize, design, and install, and features over 100 objects on display. Travails and Triumphs achieves its mission to tell the long and diverse history of the Black experience in Hillsborough County, where we can all learn about and embrace that heritage. The Board of Hillsborough County Commissioners of Florida does hereby commend Travails and Triumphs and the staff at the Tampa Bay History Center for its commitment to the preservation of the region's historical legacy and wishes the exhibit much success and many years to come. Executed this day of September 7th, 2023. And I'd like to present this to Mr. Hearns and ask if you could as well speak for a couple minutes and tell us a little about this. I'll just say that one of the reasons I've known Mr. Hearns for some decades, and it's time to take advantage of that now, is you can go onto the Tampa History website and sign up for walking tours of Tampa. And that's how, before this exhibit existed, and I'm excited to have it there, but you were able to find out about this history in Tampa would be to go on there. So I have done that several times in the past. I don't even know how many years you've been doing it for, and have learned so much by Mr. Hearns and others about the Black history of Tampa. So I'm really excited because as the weather's cooling down, and now I think we're gonna have to push it into October before you're out there walking around in the heat. But thank you so much for all the work that you've done. And if you could just.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Kemp, and to the other members of the Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners, the staff, County Commissioner. Let me say that this all began years ago with the support of our generous sponsors, and I know our President and CEO, C.J. Roberts, is going to mention them, the people who believed in this project, that Black history was important. And as we know, Black history is American history. And let me add, American history is world history. So this exhibit, Travails and Triumphs, was at first a dream. Now it's a reality. It opened in June. We welcome you to come down. We're open 7 days a week, 9 to 5. I want to just recognize Dr. Brad Massey and Rodney Kite Powell, who are also curators at the Tampa Bay History Center, who began working on this project before I joined the staff. And I just contribute a little bit to it, but it's such a joy to celebrate this history and tell stories that many people were not aware of. I'll end by just saying the recognition that we receive also includes the story of segregation. And those two Black high schools here in Tampa that Commissioner Kemp referenced, Howard W. Blake, which I know Commissioner Myers is a graduate of, and George S. Middleton High School, which I'm a graduate of. And we have sports jackets hanging in the exhibit. That's part of what we do to tell the story of Black history in this community. Again, thank you so much.
It's your jacket, right?
It's my jacket.
On the Middleton side.
It was my jacket. I donated it to the History Center. And Leroy Long, a graduate of Blake High School, one of the greatest tennis players, by the way, to come out of Tampa, donated his Howard W. Blake jacket to the exhibit, and many other people did likewise. So again, thank you so much for this honor.
Well, I share Fred's sentiments and would just like to express my appreciation to the whole TBHC team who worked hard to put this together, as well as our board members. Our board chair, Curtis Stokes, is here. We have 2 other board members joining us this morning. And I'd also like to thank the community who contributed those artifacts. Without those artifacts, we couldn't bring these stories to life. So maybe this can be a call for people to go through their attics and closets and see what sorts of things they might want to present to us to consider, including in our collection going forward. I do want to express our appreciation to our community investors, our lead sponsor, TICO, thank you very much, Tampa Bay Lightning, and Hillsborough County through the grant program. Without those funds, we couldn't do shows like this. Finally, Fred extended the invitation, but I'll reinforce that. Please come see the show. If you haven't visited the exhibit, we'd love to share it with you, as well as the many, many other stories that we tell at the History Center. And in closing, thank you so much for this recognition. It's an honor and a privilege for us to be the stewards of this community's history.
Yes, of course. And we wanted to bring the sponsors up if they could, and anyone else that you would want to, and board members, staff, join the whole crew. Thank you all for being here this morning.
Okay, Bonnie, would like to review the changes to the agenda?
Yes, thank you. Good morning. We have one item that has been deferred to September 20th. This is item A6, which is to approve an amendment for the Older Americans Act contract and the Nutrition Services Incentive Program contract. We have one item that has been removed from consent for highlighting or commendation or announcement by Commissioner Wastell. This is item A44, which is to approve for inclusion in the fiscal year 24 budget, which will be considered by the board for final adoption on September 21st. Adjustments to carry forward the unexpended fiscal year 23 nonprofit budget amount for the benefit of the Straz Center in the amount of $720,000. We have one item that has been removed by Commissioner Cameron Cepeda, which has been removed from consent for discussion or questions, which is item A37. This is to approve the first modification to the agreement with the Crisis Center of Tampa Bay for the provision of sexual assault services, nurse examiners at the South Shore site. We have several items for time certain. The first one is item D1 at 10 o'clock. This is to conduct a public hearing to approve the fiscal year 24 to 28 HART Capital Improvement Program list of projects funded by transportation impact fees per the interlocal agreement with HART, and to appropriate up to $224,890.85 in transportation impact fees over the next 5 years. Item D2 at 10 a.m. is to hold a public hearing to receive public comment and adopt a rate resolution to establish water resources fees and charges for customers receiving potable water, wastewater, and reclaimed water service. Item G2 at 10:15, which is related to item B1, is to receive a report regarding the Arts Council of Hillsborough County and Cultural Assets Commission funding. And item B1 at 10:15, related to item G2, is to approve the fiscal year 24 state-funded grant agreement between Hillsborough County and the State of Florida Division of Arts and Culture, agreement number CA2E142, in the amount of $66,265. And then 11:45 is the recess for lunch.
Can I have a motion to approve the changes?
Move for approval.
Motion by Commissioner Myers, second Commissioner Owen. Please record your vote.
Motion carried 6-0.
All right, Board will go into the public comment portion of the agenda. The Board welcomes comments from citizens about any issues or concern, or your opinion is valued in terms of providing input to the Board. However, it's requested at the same time you address the Board that comments are not directed personally at a commissioner or staff member, but rather the issues. We've set aside 45 minutes for public comment this morning. The chair will call the speakers by name. If you could state your name and speak clearly into the microphone. We have a number of speakers that have signed up this morning. I would like to have everyone provide an opportunity for everyone to speak. So if the Board doesn't mind, I'd like to entertain a motion for each speaker to be given 2 minutes in order to allow everyone to have an opportunity to speak this morning.
So moved.
Got
Second.
a motion by Commissioner Owen, second Commissioner Myers. Please record your vote.
Motion carried 5-1. Commissioner Kemp voted no.
All right, thank you. The first three speakers this morning are David Coleman, Joshua Payne, and then Joshua Smith. And again, each person will be given 2 minutes. At a minute and a half, the yellow light will go on indicating you have 30 seconds left. Good morning, sir.
2 minutes. I'll try. Dave Coleman. Good morning, Commissioners. As always, I see hotel vouchers as child abuse. We need housing in Hillsborough, also a family shelter. Our kids deserve better. Regarding A2, please make sure the Tampa Hillsborough Homeless Initiative is funding, as well as the good people from Hope that appear here time after time. Housing and transportation are #1 concerns of citizens in future land use meetings, and I would think in our budget talks. As the city struggles with its $2 billion budget, our county seems intent on removing nonprofits from our $8 billion budget. Perhaps, as the council told the mayor to find the money elsewhere, we need to stop the $87 increase in our garbage collection, the increase in water bills that you're trying, and the $1 increase in school lunches, which certainly can be done without touching special programs. The $1 million in sprinkler repairs we could do in-house, for example. So the Tampa Arts Alliance is under threat of losing its funds, which is an extremely small part of the budget, but does so much. Life without art is meh. That's the first big return, some joy. My sister worked 30 years at a local TV station here in art. Retired, she continues her calling. Years ago, she started bringing art class into kids in Orient Road Jail. She did it on her own and has wonderful stories of connection with kids that had nothing. She crowdsourced materials. That was wonderful. She stopped eventually. Perhaps there's another program there, I don't know. If it's done with the support, darn it. If it's done with the support of an organization rather than an individual on its own, it would last. The trouble with the Ayn Rand philosophy the board has adopted is that handout, burnout. No matter how well-intentioned an individual is, it is social programs that last, rarely an individual effort. More recently, Tampa.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. Appreciate your comments. Joshua Payne, followed by Joshua Smith, and then Nina Tatlock, which I believe is virtual. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. I'm Joshua Payne, Hillsborough County resident. I'm associated with the New Tampa Players, a not-for-profit community theater company, and a beneficiary of Arts Council and cultural asset grants over the last several years. I'm speaking about the county's continued funding of the arts. As you've read in the report that you'll be receiving under Agenda Item G2, the local arts economy is orders of magnitude larger than the grant funding that comes from the county budget. Two conclusions you might draw from that report are, one, that the majority of funding for the arts already comes from the private sector and other non-county sources, and two, whatever grant funds the county puts into the arts Those funds help generate many times more economic activity and even county tax revenue. So purely from a fiscal perspective, the county's small ongoing investment in the arts consistently produces great returns. I would compare the arts in our community to a flywheel. We've built up a lot of momentum over many years, and it doesn't take much from the county to help maintain and increase that momentum and reap the ongoing benefits of long-term investment. But that little pushing year after year really does matter. If you stop adding energy to the flywheel, it loses momentum, and it can cost a lot more time and energy to get the momentum back. Put it another way, it would be short-sighted to starve a golden goose just to save a bit on goose feed. This commission has long recognized the importance not only of public safety, but of thriving community, not only of roads, but of having places and events we want to go to. In Hillsborough County, we recognize that the arts are essential to the flourishing of our community, and they're worth investing in over the long haul. I can think of no better example than the new Tampa Performing Arts Center, a project 20 years in the making that finally opened its doors less than a year ago, thanks to the tireless efforts of Commissioner Hagan. Can I give you a microcosm of this larger pattern in the report? New Tampa Players received a special event partnership grant of $19,700 in support of our production of Grease this summer, our first main stage show at the Performing Arts Center. We matched that funding more than dollar for dollar. Half the grant amount went right back to the county in the form of rent at the Performing Arts Center. We spent another $4,000 promoting the Performing Arts Center. The balance of that grant helped fund set construction and costuming, materials locally, and local craftspeople paid for their expert work in building, painting, design, and sewing.
Thank you, Mr. Payne. Next three speakers, Joshua Smith, followed by Nina Tatlock, and then Megan Parsons. Good morning, sir.
Hi, good morning, Chair Hagan, Commissioners. My name is Joshua Smith. I'm the president of the Gay Men's Chorus of Tampa Bay. I'm here today to represent just one of the many arts organizations that benefit from the funding provided by the Arts Council of Hillsborough County. I'm here speaking today on behalf of my organization. It's 50 singers, 10 volunteers, 2 staff members, and countless patrons, but also on the behalf of the countless wonderful nonprofit arts organizations in Hillsborough County that would be significantly impacted by Cameron Cepeda's proposal to eliminate funding for the Arts Council. As a lifelong Hillsborough County resident, originally from Plant City, now living in Seminole Heights, I've seen the impact of the intense population growth and resulting development over the last 30 years. Over my lifetime, I've lived in each of the 4 single-member districts represented here today, in Plant City and Riverview, in West Chase, in Lutz, and now in Seminole Heights. Each of these locations have their own set of transportation woes that I've personally experienced. As an equity holder and vice president at a Temple Terrace-based property management company, I also understand the importance of building a reasonable and balanced budget and the absolute necessity of planning for the future. But even from where I'm standing, I can do the math. Cutting what amounts to a $3 million line item will not come close to plugging the anticipated $1.5 billion hole. In fact, even if you got the entire Arts Council budget, this will plug less than 0.2% of that hole on an annual basis. Our organization relies on the Arts Council for roughly 15% of its overall budget. It's important to understand where that money is spent. It goes towards employing 2 staff members, both of whom are Hillsborough County representatives or residents. It goes towards the rental of our rehearsal and performance space. Thousands of dollars are used towards local small businesses for performance attire, screen printing, concert programs, and more. And the course is just one of hundreds of nonprofit arts organizations in Hillsborough County, which combined have a staggering impact on the local economy. In general, over $433 million in annual economic impact is represented by nonprofits in the Hillsborough County.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your comments. Is there Nina Tatlock, virtual?
Good morning. My name is Nina Tatlock. Thank you for letting me speak virtually this morning. I appreciate this opportunity. I have 2 things. First, I want to ask that you please approve the state grant for our Hillsborough Arts Council and the small local match that is needed for this. Second, it would be very short-sighted for the County Commission to stop funding our Hillsborough County Arts Council and art projects throughout our county. The budgeted amount that goes to these art projects is an extremely small part of the budget. The arts are responsible for creating jobs and revenue in our county. The arts contribute tremendously to the quality of life in our communities around our county. We need to look into making corporate developers pay more when it comes to finding money to overcome the shortfalls in infrastructure. As a volunteer, I have seen a lot of happy faces on children who have been able to attend the Firehouse Cultural Center down in Ruskin. These are children who would not be able to attend these types of programs otherwise. Ruskin is a better community for having the Firehouse Cultural Center because of the generosity of a forward-looking county commission. We should not be going backwards now. Again, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Tatlock. Next three speakers are Megan Parsons, and then we have David Jenkins, which is virtual, followed by Amelia Sargent. Good morning.
Morning. Hi, my name is Megan Parsons, and I am a board member of the Hillsborough County Arts Council. I have 1 month left as a board member of my 3-year term, and I'll continue to advocate for the arts and the Arts Council long after my term is up. Our beloved Hillsborough County Arts Council has been around for over 50 years, and it breaks my heart to hear that Commissioner Cepeda doesn't consider the arts a priority and wants to eliminate the funding for the Arts Council and for the Cultural Assets Commission, to take away funding that impacts employment of artists and the admin that support these community treasures, to steal funding from institutions that inspire, educate, attract people to our county, contributes to the economy, that fosters a sense of belonging and a community for so many of our county's residents, that preserves our community's history and heritage. But there are numbers. In a 2017 Arts and Economic Prosperity Report, the study finds that nonprofit arts and cultural industry in Hillsborough County was responsible for almost 15,000 full-time jobs, over $20 million in local government revenue, over $30 million in state government revenue, as well as over $433 million in local spending by these groups. By cutting this important funding, you would be responsible for many losing their jobs, including 4 employees of the Arts Council. You would be taking away critical funding for artists, programs, and institutions that we all know and love, as well as organizations that some of us may not be more familiar with, but still mean so much to many in our community. I'm begging you, please do not defund the Arts Council and the Cultural Assets Commission, and please vote to approve local funding match of Agenda Item B1.
Thank you, Ms. Parsons. Next three speakers are David Jenkins, which is virtual, followed by Amelia Sargent, and then Mark Haney. Mr. Jenkins, are you virtual?
Chairman, Mr. Jenkins did not call in.
Okay, he did not, okay. Amelia Sargent, and then Mark Haney, and then Peter Horseman. Good morning.
Good morning. I am Amelia Sargent. I'm the producing artistic director of the Tampa Repertory Theater, and I've come here today to ask you to continue supporting the funding of the Arts Council and the Cultural Assets Commission. I ask you to think about our people in our community as you deliberate this. This funding is vital to the existence of smaller nonprofit theaters such as Tampa Rep. Small professional theaters are local organizations that provide jobs to local artists. Small professional theaters can program more varied plays which are more representative of all in our community, thereby promoting diversity and inclusion in the arts. Small professional theaters bring revenue to more local restaurants and services surrounding them. Arts are not a luxury. They are an intrinsic part of our culture and of our humanity. Unfortunately, art often comes at luxury prices. Many in our community cannot afford a night at the theater, much less a season subscription to the Broadway series at the Straz Center. Small professional theaters can address economic accessibility. At Tampa Rep, we believe that everyone should have access to excellent quality live theater, and we have a choose-your-price ticketing model that provides tickets as low as $12 to a performance. Ticket sales provide less than 50% of the income to nonprofit theaters, and the only way that we can provide this kind of economic accessibility is with funding sources such as the grants we receive from the Arts Council. It is our responsibility to carry culture forward, instilling the value of supporting and enjoying the arts in the generations to come. This responsibility starts with ensuring that arts funding is not only available, but flourishing in Hillsborough County so that locally produced art can continue to exist. I'm here to ask each one of you to share in this responsibility to our community by supporting the Arts Council budget and further supporting increased grants from the state. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sargent. Next three speakers, Mark Haney, followed by Peter Horseman, and then Jason Marlowe, which is virtual. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. First of all, I want to thank you for the capital support that you've given the zoo. I'm Mark Haney with the Zoo Tampa. I almost said Lowry Park Zoo. My boss would kill me. And so we just want to thank you, first of all, for the capital support that you've given us in the past, and we want to encourage you to keep that moving forward. I'll tell you a little bit about the zoo. We've seen record attendance in the last few years. We are now at almost 1.2 million visitors a year, which puts us as the most visited cultural attraction in the entire state of Florida. We operate a zoo school. We send about 80,000 kids a year through our school programs. That does not include field trips. So field trips add several more to that experience. In the past few years, the funding from the county has allowed us to replace the underwater viewing windows for the manatee, for our David A. Straz Jr. Critical Manatee Care Center, and allowed us to do many other things, including creating habitats for our endangered Florida panthers. There's only 200 panthers left in the entire world, Florida panthers left in the entire world, and we have 3 of them at the zoo, and the funding helped us create habitats for all of them. We can't house them together. They're like cats. If anybody's ever introduced house cats to each other, they don't like it. The grant program requires a 1-to-1 match, which we always meet, and we use the county funds to help leverage other private donations, other sources of government funding, and we really appreciate it. We look at the zoo and the other cultural attraction in Hillsborough County as a key part of the county's infrastructure through increased tourism, enhanced educational opportunities, and economic impact. And again, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Haney. We have Peter Horseman, followed by Jason Marlowe, and then Natalie Yu. Mr. Horseman? Going once. All right, is there a Jason Marlowe on the line?
Indeed. Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning, sir.
Can you all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Good morning. Well, as Commissioner Hagan responded saying, I will too be brief. I want to specifically speak to this absurd notion that we, as a county, should sacrifice all of our support for the arts in order to make marginal infrastructure improvements. Suggesting that we can even make a dent in our infrastructure issues by reallocating our arts funding is akin to one thinking they can lose weight by sucking in their stomach. Current construction costs for a mere mile of sidewalk approach $1 million. We are assuredly not paving our way to paradise with the limited monies with which we support the arts. Furthermore, much of this funding is critical to individuals and nonprofits that tremendously enrich our county. These monies are an investment in the economic engine of our region and empower local artists and businesses. I look forward to seeing the Commission reject this misguided motion. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Mr. Marlowe. Again, and Peter Horseman? No? All right, Natalie just says you. Is there a Natalie here? Okay. Carla Hartley? All right, it just says you. It's probably you, Natalie. Okay.
Coming slowly, but I'm coming.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. Natalie King with RSA Consulting. I'm here as a representative of our Cultural Assets Commission. I've had the privilege of being a part of the board since the inception and have the privilege of being the board chair over that time. So I'm here to thank you because but for the fact that this commission was created by this board, we would not have the opportunity to do the work that we do with this grant program. We find it to be a very great privilege because we see the investments that we're able to take. We take that responsibility very seriously. We recognize that taking the taxpayer dollars and reinvesting those back into our community has to have a strong ROI, and it needs to bring back the promised impact that our guidelines and our bylaws say for our CAC. It has been an interesting evolution of that process. We have taken it very seriously. Our board is made up of several representatives from our community, elected officials from the cities and the county, but also from the private industries of philanthropic. I'm one of the 3 private philanthropic representatives. And so we come to it with a lot of different perspectives. And so we have very hearty debate, we hold very thoughtful workshops, and we've evolved the process as we have gone through the last several years. We have changed our scoring, we have changed the criteria, and we've been really rigorous in our evaluation to the extent that we've not made some people happy, unfortunately, because we're very, very, curious about the ability to really bring back that value. This is about community, it's about placemaking, it's about really creating opportunities for job opportunities for the local talent in our community. And so with that, we just want you to know that we appreciate the investments you have made. We have on average spent between $600,000 and $800,000 of the dollars annually. What we don't spend rolls back to the general revenue. So we are careful about spending it well and knowing that it will come back to you so that it can be properly invested if we can't spend it at the level that we intend it to be. So with that, I just wanted to thank you and appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Ms. King. Carla Hartley, followed by Allie Norman, virtual, and then a Jerry Bickle. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Carla Hartley. I am the producing artistic director of Stageworks Theater in the Channel District. I had a whole thing where I was going to talk about hard economic numbers and those things, which is not usually my style, I think, if you ask anybody. But you've heard those numbers. What I want to talk to you about is how profound it is to look into the eyes of a child who is having their first artistic experience. It is profound, and it moves us all as artists to tears. Because it's so important that we're rearing children to have a critical thought process, to engage in arts and culture, because if the children of our communities are not engaging in arts and culture, when they grow up, there's no reason for them to seek it out in the first place. So I am here I rise in support of the Arts Council funding because it is an important way that we talk about our area and the people who live in it. Artists are the historians of society. Everything that we know about the history of our civilization, we know because a literary artist wrote it down, or a painter painted a painting about it. A sculptor sculpted something about it. We dig up pots of these scattered bits of pottery, and we put it together, and by that we know how ancient Sumerians lived their lives. The arts are important. They are essential. As Amelia said, they are not a luxury. And I hope that you all have the moral certitude to be able to vote yes on the Arts Council funding. I would appreciate it. The thousands of artists in our area appreciate it. And it is, quite frankly, an essential part of this commission's duty is to serve the residents, all of the residents of our community. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Hartley. Is there Allie Norman, virtual?
Hi, yes, thank you for having me. My name is Allie Norman. I'm an independent artist, a local resident of Seminole Heights. I've done a lot of outreach and work in the community, and I also received a grant from the Hillsborough Arts Council a couple of years ago. The artists in this community are the ones that are really creating the culture that is, oh, sorry, my dog's going to bark. That is driving so much of the gentrification and economic growth in this area. And it's now artists already are being priced out of the neighborhoods and incapable of living here in the first place. And small grants like this, especially, like my grant was only like $2,000, that made a huge impact for me. Even the small grants that we do for independent artists make a huge impact. And I think that defunding any sort of support for artists is a huge mistake in the cultural and economic growth of our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Norman. Next three speakers, Jerry Bickle, followed by David Cox, and then Tad Denton. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Commissioner. My name is Jerry Bickle. I'm the director of Bits and Pieces Puppet Theater. I'm probably one of the earliest recipients of these grants, having worked at the schools and the Arts Council since 1974. I've watched the Arts Council grow from a city event to a county event, and I've watched all of art continue to prosper and grow within our community as well. At first, we had nothing. We were so happy when we found that the Tampa Theater could be saved, turned into a performing arts center. We were one of the first groups there as well, and our work now continues today. This year, with our programming and our support through the Arts Council, we visited over 100 schools, presented 220 different performances on 5 different topics, all of which had to deal with school age appropriate outcomes and learning results that they wanted to see. I thought I would just read one quick review that came from one of our most recent performances. First and foremost, the puppet theater was a wonderment for the students. They could still hear, said the teachers, the oohs and ahs as the first group came in and set up. They talked about the love of storytelling, gave our students an interest in this new medium, provided a connection with characters, decided how characters could then be developed in a story, and then be used as they started to learn how to write. The students' hands instantly raised later with questions all about how puppets were created, what makes them work, what's favorite, where does the music come from. All theater, all different types of art opens our brains to all of these questions. These questions allow us to feel like we know our place in the world. And the Arts Council and the funding that you provide lets young children decide every day what they want to do and learn about the world itself. One of the most surprising things to the teacher was that even while the show was going on, an older group of teachers came in as well with their students. They all immediately stopped and watched the show. Although the program was designed most of our work from preschool through 3rd grade, indeed it spoke to the 5th graders that saw the shows as well and promoted communication among that group. The work that you do makes us all love our country, our city. It allows us to learn more. Our children are entertained, adults, and that was it. Thank you so much. Please support this funding.
Appreciate your comments. David Cox, followed by Tad Denton, and then Theron Butler. Morning, sir.
Good morning. Thank you for having us, commissioners. My name is David Cox. I'm the executive director of the Gasparilla Music Foundation, and we are a recipient of funding from the Cultural Assets Commission, and just want to briefly speak specifically about our organization and our interaction there. We were formed in 2011, and from very early on, we had been meeting with different members of county staff to align our nonprofit's mission with the long-term strategic plan of the county. The first workshop, I believe, was 2016 that we were asked to attend about establishing a cultural fund in Hillsborough County. And out of those meetings came the Cultural Assets Fund, which had some intentions to showcase local talents, parks, and natural resources in the county. One thing that the county did iterate was that they wanted to see a return on investment, countywide impact, and private investment in these type of cultural assets. So just to briefly boil it down, 35% of our attendees come from outside of Hillsborough County. These cultural tourists spend an average of 68% more than local tourists. We provide over 350 paid performance opportunities for local artists in Hillsborough County. We support over 50 different elementary schools countywide through our instrument program. And lastly, for every dollar invested by the county in the Gasparilla Music Festival, the county receives $1.19 in tax revenue. We spend $17 directly with Hillsborough-based businesses, and we generate $27.40 in economic impact for the county. We receive $9 in private funding for every dollar that we receive for the county. We have over 50 corporate sponsors and private grants that help fund us. So thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you, Mr. Cox. Tad Denton, followed by Theron Butler. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. Thanks for the opportunity to be here today. I'm going to take a little different approach. Those of a certain age may remember Dave Letterman and his top 10 list. So I'd like to present to you today, according to the Americans for the Arts, the top 10 reasons to support the arts. Number 10, arts strengthen mental health. The arts are an effective resource for reducing depression, anxiety, and increasing life satisfaction. Number 9, arts impact health and well-being of the military. The arts heal the mental, physical, and moral injuries of military service members and veterans. Number 8, arts improve healthcare. Nearly half of nation's healthcare institutions provide arts programming for patients, family, and staff. Number 7, arts have social impact. The University of Pennsylvania says that demonstrated that a high concentration of arts in cities lead to higher civic engagement, social cohesion, and higher child welfare. The arts spark creativity and innovation. Creativity is among the top 5 applied skills sought by business leaders. Arts improve academic performance. Students engage in arts learning have higher GPAs, standardized test scores, and college rates, and college-going rates, as well as low dropout rates. Number 4, arts drive tourism and revenue to local businesses. The nonprofit industries, arts industries alone generate $166 billion in economic activity annually and support 4.6 million jobs across the country. Arts strengthen the economy. The nation's art and culture sector, nonprofit commercial education, is a $876 billion industry that supports 4.8 million jobs. Arts improve individual well-being. 81% of population says that arts is a positive experience in a troubled world. And finally, number 1, arts unify the community, which we need more than ever.
Thank you, Mr. Denton. Appreciate you being able to get that in there. Deron Butler, followed by Melissa Nordbeck and Robert Bolu.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. I appreciate the time. My name is Theron Butler, and I am a local activist and artist. I've performed up and down the East Coast and volunteer my time with a number of the professional community organizations here in the local Tampa area. As an educated and involved community citizen who pays taxes in Hillsborough County, I am deeply troubled by the actions under consideration of this board with regard to reallocation of funds from the Arts Council and Cultural Assets Commission, including their operating budgets, current and former grantees. Art, in its many forms, is a reflection of society and culture. It helps us understand what we are as human beings and influences how we relate to one another. It draws people together. We see the commonality and humanity in others through those shared struggles. Art drives exceptional economic regional growth through the diverse set of local and national visitors. This board would be well served by receiving the new economic impact study from the Americans for the Arts, scheduled for release this October of 2023, prior to take any such brash actions. The Arts Council has been in existence for serving the entire community, not just special interests, for 50 years. For the Tampa area to serve as a world-class destination, true leadership with creative vision, considering the desires of all Hillsborough citizens, is sorely needed. Waste and permissible use funds can be found in any one of the larger county budgets. Art, however, is vitally important to improve and maintain our place as a premier destination. The arts have no waste to spare. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Butler. Last 3 speakers, Melissa Nordbeck, Robert Bolu, and Sheila Simmons-Tribble. Good morning, Ms. Nordbeck.
Good morning. My name is Melissa Nordbeck. The Taylor Morrison Keystone Odessa property was assessed at $12.2 million last year. It was assessed at $19 million this year, even though they paid $23.5 million for the property. But because of the non-homestead cap benefit, the property appraiser has only assessed the property at $13.5 million this year instead of the full $19 million. The non-homestead cap is a 10% cap benefit that applies to property that is not homesteaded, like second homes, rental properties, or vacant land. The non-homestead cap benefit is removed upon improvements being made to the property that increase the value of the property by at least 25%. This tax benefit was never intended for subdivisions under construction. Because they are actively improving a property by adding utilities, roads, amenities, and actual homes, these developments do not qualify for the non-homestead cap, yet the property appraiser automatically applies this tax benefit. The developer enjoys this tax benefit until they sell a home to a buyer, so they are building new homes, obviously increasing the value of the property, and never pay taxes on the true market value. On February 3rd, 2023, the division manager, Taylor Morrison, filed an affidavit with the court stating that the total value of the Keystone Odessa property is $44.7 million, which I believe to be fair market value of the property in its current state, he is quoted as saying. So doing some rough math, because of the cap, that means approximately $500,000 of unpaid property taxes due to the improper application of the non-homestead cap. And that is just one subdivision. Look around the county and note how many large subdivisions are currently under construction. Thousands of new lots and homes are being assessed under market value, costing the county millions of dollars.
Thank you, Ms. Nordbeck. And board members, just so you know, yesterday my office forwarded this to the property appraiser for review and response to get back with us. Last two speakers, Robert, and I don't want to mispronounce your name. Good morning, sir. And the last speaker, Sheila Simmons Tribble.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Robert Boileau from HOPE, Hillsborough Organization for Progress and Equality. And we want to thank those commissioners who were present, including your current chair, Commissioner Hagan, and Commissioner Kemp, who voted in September of 2019 to establish this ordinance that provides $10 million annually in the county's budget. The need for affordable housing has not diminished since then. It's only grown. And the benefit to the county has been shown through these past few years. I believe it's about 400 or more units that have been developed and provided of affordable housing to our county. This fund also would help with funding supportive affordable housing for people who are coming out of homelessness, people with mental health issues, and other developmentally disabled folks. We've seen recently over in Lakeland a project that does that, and believe there's soon to be one in Brandon. So these funds are very useful and helpful to our county. Please do not try to move them. It would be wrong-headed. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Sheila Simmons Tribble.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Sheila Simmons Tribble, zip code 33615, and I'm currently the chair of the HOPE Affordable Housing Monitoring Committee. And today I'm here to speak and give voice to those who cannot attend because they're either at work or they just couldn't come. I speak for the teachers' aides, the janitors, the store clerks, the essential workers, seniors, the homelessness, and those who need permanent supportive housing. We have heard and shared the hardships from time to time about low and very low income families and seniors in finding decent, affordable housing. We have heard and shared with you how families are getting sick from mold and rusty pipes, and also being able to try and decide whether or not they're going to pay their rent, their medical care, or food. It's not so bad sometimes when we think about how families are struggling, but it is bad when we think about what happens to them in the future. I'd like to remind you that I had shared last month about an elderly woman whose rent had been raised twice, and she found out that her rent would be raised again the first of the year. What will happen to her? Will she become a statistic? Will she become homeless? The lack of the affordable housing has shown us the increased amount of elderly, in particularly, that are struggling for housing. And I'd like for us to look about and think about how do we go about making a difference. Applaud each of you that came out for the Uptown housing opening, and you got a chance to see how we can make a difference, particularly in the lives of families and, of course, in the lives of children. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Really appreciate your comments. All right, that closes the public comment portion of the agenda. Can we have a motion to approve the consent?
Move for approval.
Motion to approve the consent, Commissioner Myers. Second, Commissioner Kemp. Please record your vote.
Motion carried 6-0.
All right, Bonnie, we had one item pulled for highlighting.
Yes, we do. We have A44 that was pulled by Commissioner Wustel for highlighting.
Commissioner Wustel.
I just wanted to highlight the fact that this is almost $1 million that I understand that we obligated in the past, and I don't want it to appear that because I left it on consent that I in any way intend to agree with what it's determined it's going to be used for. I understand that there was extreme disappointment in inflation and the actual costs that came out of the needs of the Straz to expand their facility. But I did want to stress the urgency that $720,000 of property taxes is coincidentally about the same amount to install a stoplight that could save someone's life. So I can't stress enough the importance of us to figure out what this money is going to be used for, and quickly, or I will have to take action to reappropriate it to something better and put forward a motion. Thank you. I move it back to consent.
All right, do we have a motion to approve? Motion by
Second.
Commissioner Kemp, second Commissioner Myers. If no other comments, please record your vote.
Motion carried 6-0.
All right, thank you. Might I have a 10 a.m. time certain?
Yes, sir. We have our first public hearing. This is to conduct a public hearing to approve the 2024 to 2028 HART Capital Improvement Program. Josh Bellotti with Engineering and Operations is here, and we also have a representative from HART here as well for any questions.
Good morning, Josh.
Engineering and Operations. This is a public hearing to approve the FY24 through 28 HART Capital Improvement Program list of projects funded by transportation impact fees, and to appropriate up to $224,890.85 in transportation impact fees over the next 5 years, subject to actual collections. The impact fee ordinance allows for transportation impact fees to be utilized for eligible HART capital improvements through the interlocal agreement, which defines the process. As you know, since transportation fees are gradually being replaced by mobility fees, the actual amount of impact fees collected will depend on the number of projects still subject to them. The impact fees are not eligible for operating or maintenance expenses, only for eligible capital expenditures. The agenda backup includes HART's impact fee justification report as supporting documentation of compliance with eligibility. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have, and this is a public hearing.
All right, thank you. This public hearing, anyone like to speak to this item? If not, can we have a motion? Motion to approve, Commissioner Kemp, second Commissioner Myers. If there are no comments, please record your vote.
Motion carried 6-0.
Next item.
Thank you. The next item is item D2. This is also a public hearing to receive comments and approve a rate resolution to establish water resources fees and charges for customers for water, wastewater, and reclaimed water services. Lisa Ray with Water Services is here to present this item. We also have various representatives from our bond counsel to our consulting engineer here to answer any questions, and financial advisor.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm Lisa Ray, Director of Water Resources for Hillsborough County. And this is a public hearing to adopt a rate resolution to establish water resources fees and charges for customers receiving potable water, wastewater, and reclaimed water services. To introduce this item, I'm going to be highlighting some of the slides that we saw at the June 8th workshop. So starting with our mission, as you can see it here on the screen, it boils down to protecting public health and safety, while at the same time ensuring environmental protection and stewardship. And we do this on a daily basis. Hillsborough County Water Resources operates the third largest water and sewer utility in the state. We are also one of the top 50 in the nation. Our system is expansive with over 300 square miles. We have 4 water treatment plants with 2 booster pump stations, 5 wastewater treatment plants, 870 lift stations, and all of this is connected by over 5,700 miles of pipe. That actual pipe length is the distance from Tampa to the Falkland Islands down by Argentina in South America. Our funding needs include the ongoing operation and maintenance of the existing system, as well as the repair and replacement of aging assets to ensure reliability. The current replacement value of the existing assets is $8 billion. However, to handle the growth, especially in our South Central region, we need to construct new water and wastewater facilities, along with other programs addressing system needs. In 2018, we worked with our rate consultant to develop a plan to cover the needs based on board priority funding goals. The current approved rate plan, which is shown on the slide, is set to expire in fiscal year 2025. In 2022, according to the U.S. Census data, Hillsborough County was one of the top 10 fastest growing counties in the nation. By 2040, over 165,000 new residents are expected to move here, with over 90% of them moving to the south central part of our system. The current rate plan included construction of facilities to handle this growth. However, high inflation, supply chain issues, and staffing challenges have impacted our ability to provide services and adequately handle the growth. Though inflation has stabilized in the last year, the prices are not coming down, and the need to maintain and operate the existing system while providing services for our new residents still exists. When we did our rate analysis earlier this year, it became evident that we would not be able to accomplish the established objectives, and public health and safety could become a concern. With the help of our rate consultant, Raftelis, we evaluated our funding needs and developed the following plans. This slide illustrates the proposed rates that are included in the resolution that you have for adoption today. This includes extending the existing indexing through fiscal year 2035. Indexing increases are only applied to operation and maintenance costs and do not include water purchases from Tampa Bay Water or any of our capital expenses. The indexing allows us to adjust our operating budget for inflation but does not provide sufficient revenue to address all needs. To fully fund our revenue requirements, address the impacts of the extraordinary inflation and growth on our system, a fixed rate adjustment is also needed. At our workshop, we presented two options for this fixed rate adjustment, as shown on the screen. Water Resources recommends option 1, since it is a flat rate over 7 years and ultimately achieves the same goal of funding the planned projects and avoids deferring needed repairs and maintenance. So, how does this rate increase compared to other Florida utilities that are also experiencing growth? As you can see on this graph, there is a 5-year comparison of the average monthly water bill based on 6,000 gallons per month of use. You can see we are in the lower end of the pack, as illustrated by the yellow bars on the left-hand side. And this does not change much over the next 5 years with our proposed increases, as others are also increasing their rates. The purpose of this public hearing is for the board to adopt the resolution establishing the water resources fees and charges for customers receiving potable water, wastewater, and reclaimed water services. As shown on the slide, prior to the public hearing, we did notify all of our customers via their monthly water bill, published 2 legal notices, and posted additional information on the county's website. To date, we received 1 email, which was forwarded to me through Commissioner Hagan's office, and I personally responded to, and less than a dozen calls from residents through our call center. There have been no additional emails or CRMs submitted. However, we do know the word has gotten out. Many of our employees live in the community, and their HOAs and their HOA Facebook pages, Nextdoor, and other social media, they have seen it posted in their neighborhoods. This concludes my presentation. I would be happy to answer any questions, and this is a public hearing.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. Would anyone like to speak to this item?
Chairman, we do have 2 people. Chairman, we do have 2 people virtually.
Okay. Anthony Maresca?
I'm sorry, actually, we have 1 person virtually. It's Cindy Garcia.
Okay. Ms. Garcia, are you on the line?
Yes, I'm here.
Good morning.
Hello. Good morning. How are you?
Good.
Okay. So first, I would like to start by saying about this water increase, word has not gotten out. I actually received my bill yesterday, and I just happened to see the tab that they want to increase our water bills by 35%. 35%. And our electric bills are going up 50% since 2020. This will be about a 50% increase in our water bills since 2020. This is unsustainable. It's just, I can't even believe it. And that she's saying that people know, I just don't believe it. This is not true. People do not know what's happening. They don't know how to stop it. People cannot afford their bills. They cannot afford what's happening with inflation. My name is Cindy Garcia, by the way. So Harry Cohen, Ken Hagan, Gwen Meyer, Michael Owen, Donna Cepeda, and Pat Kemp, I humbly pray all of you will humble yourselves. Look at the rate increases for PICO and now another 35% increase in our water bills. If you look, you'll see someone has been approving the bills to go up 35 to 50%. That's only in 3 years. Since 2020, our electric and water bills will have been approved to be increased to 35 to 50%. These are necessities. Water and electric are necessities. They are not plays. They are not a new car. We have to have water. We have to have electric. These are not optional. I'm calling, asking, and praying, and I'm begging you, the county commissioners, to rise up and fight with us, your people. May God's will be done. And for all my fellow citizens, remember, all things are done for our good. We will persevere. We are Americans, and we are free. Peace be upon all of you. And whoever said that opening prayer, I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for your time. And please, please, please do not approve this increase. I know I'm the only one who called. We can't believe I'm the only one who called this. Please don't do it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Garcia. Is anyone else virtual to speak on this item? All right, that closes the public comment.
Thank you, sir.
All right, Commissioner Wostel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I tend to agree with the last speaker, unfortunately, just because I know that I delete the water bill email as soon as it comes in, and I know it's hard to get public engagement, and it's extremely expensive to try and do mailers. So I know it's complicated to properly notify everybody of what's going on. I saw a couple of options, and I'll ask Mr. Cassidy to come on up about ways that were listed on the agenda about how we could fund this. And I remember Commissioner Myers asking for a lot of different options during the last public hearing. Sorry, I'm just pulling it up. And I see the two different options with the perpetual rate increases. And then the last part of the last sentence of this public hearing is that the rates will be sufficient to pay all expected expenditures to support the Water Resource Department Fund and promote the financial creditworthiness of the enterprise fund, which is what this is really about, right? We have to improve the creditworthiness of our fund to be able to bond out enough money to afford the very expensive capacity growth that we've had in East Hillsborough, South Hillsborough, correct? More water demand, more wastewater demand. We don't want fecal matter being washed up like we saw in Clearwater. We want to avoid all of those very bad, unhealthy situations and potentially dangerous situations if we don't get enough water. That's what this is really about, right? Building the creditworthiness to be able to bond enough money.
Well, it certainly achieves creditworthiness along the way, but I mean, first and foremost, we're trying to fund the infrastructure that we need to serve our customers. So that's the first priority. Along the way, it does establish financial worthiness so that we can bond the money, so that we can borrow the money to do that.
Okay. The reason, the point and reason that I brought all of that up is that there actually is. Do we have an idea of all of these percentages? And the speaker is correct. Incorrect in the numbers by 50% increase. What she really meant is that this is a 200% increase to the water bill from 2 years ago to 20 whatever when this ends. This is going to effectively double everyone's rate, according to the graph that's there. From 2 years ago, it would have been about 80, and then at the end of it, we'll be at 160 for the average water bill.
Right. So in 2019, the average bill was $80 and some change per month, and by the time this concludes in 2032, it will be approximately 150, 160.
So a 200% increase of what it was, from what it was a couple of years ago, is what I'm getting after. And you said infrastructure, which is a very important thing. And one thing that I feel like we've gotten away from is wants versus needs in Hillsborough County. And I heard a lot of the public speakers, and I think there's confusion about, we might also want some of those things, but we have wants and we have needs. And I believe that we've moved away from funding the needs so much that we're having to exacerbate everyone's cost of living. So I found that there is another way, and that this board has a policy in place to fund this infrastructure growth. It was actually voted in on February the 4th of 2004. It's board policy 3.3.1.0.0. It's a lot of numbers. But it says that in addition to the previously stated funds of this policy, the funds to expand the utility system to serve new customers shall be obtained through capacity fees, earnings of the system, grants, including the community investment tax, also known as the infrastructure surtax of the Florida State Code. So I want to hear what all of my fellow board members have to say on this. I fully support and understand that we have thank you very much, Mr. Cassidy, that we must do this. We must improve the infrastructure. We can't have people not have clean potable water. It would just be disastrous and create a public safety and health crisis. We can't have our wastewater treatment facility. I believe one of them is at 99% capacity over there, right? And this will effectively be able to increase the capacity and shutter these old infrastructures that are already at full capacity before we have a safety issue. So I fully support the need for us to improve the creditworthiness to be able to bond out this money and fund this infrastructure. I want to be very clear about that. What I'm saying is how we do it. And I welcome advice from the county administrator on this, but from the way that I read this policy is that the community investment tax could be used to grant back the user fees that are collected. We could grant and subsidize the fund to improve this infrastructure in a way where even if we increase these rates, and I would love, do we know how much of this percentage is going towards the new infrastructure costs compared to actual rate increases for user fees? Do we know those two variables of, I understand that, look, the state of Florida voted to increase minimum wage. Everything's going to become more expensive and we have to respond and answer to that. But I need to understand is how much of this increase goes to the costs of user fees and how much of this percentage increase is going to the costs of infrastructure, because what I'm trying to get at is how much could we subsidize with current and new infrastructure surtax if it were to be approved?
That's a great question, Commissioner Wosel. Rob Ory with Raftelis is our rate consultant, and he has done a lot of deep dives into the apportionment of where these increases will fund the various needs. I'd like to emphasize that our new water and wastewater facilities are a component of the needs. We have a significant inventory of assets that need to be repaired and maintained. We've got significant costs of day-to-day operations that need to be funded. So yes, the new capital that we need for building our new wastewater plant, our new water plant, that's significant. It's a big, big, big lift. And it's a big component of the rates that are required. But we also got other components. So Rob might be able to address the apportionment.
And that's correct. I think Lisa even mentioned, Rob Ory for the record with Raftelis. I've worked with the county for many, many years, and I appreciate to be here today. As I think Lisa mentioned in her presentation, asset replacement costs. Today's assets, we got $3 billion of assets on the books. At today's cost, at original cost, to replace all those assets is $8 billion. That's existing ratepayer type stuff. Another impact that's affected us, and you all have experienced this, is the cost of inflation on goods and services, and primarily infrastructure. Although we have our price index, we had 8-9% CPI inflation, and the index was 2 and 3% that we had. So we're catching up there as well. In terms of expansion versus non-expansion, the near-term there's a lot of cost recovery O&M expense. But if you think about the capital side, at least 1/3 of our revenues is going right now to renewals and replacements, replacing that pipe, that 5,000, 8,000 miles of pipe, I can't remember what it was, they're replacing that pipe. And so I'm looking at about more like a 50-50 type of arrangement, but I can get you an exact number, because it changes every year, as you can imagine, as the new facilities come online, that is expansion related. So it's,
So 50-50 of the proposed
and that's a rough guess.
doubling of rough guess.
Yeah.
That's very helpful, and I want to have more robust conversation from my board members, but I do want to point out that there is an absolute availability to utilize current existing infrastructure tax, surtax, also known as the community investment tax, and potentially new ones. And that while we don't know what may or may not happen, and we know that this need is existing now, our vote today could ensure that we properly utilize the infrastructure surtax to subsidize the working class people of Hillsborough County. So I look forward to hearing everyone's thoughts.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Owen?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Cassidy, could you come back up? In some of the, I had some of the exact same questions Commissioner Wostel had, but I just want to clarify again. The speaker that spoke said her rates are going up 50%, and I think she meant from last year. Could you please and I just didn't quite understand that. Can you please clarify the past 2 years where I think this is real important for the public, where our rates have gone in the last couple of years?
Yeah, yes, sir. So our rates have increased by 4% per year for the last 4 years, I believe. And so the current rate plan is 4% per year for 6 years. It terminates in fiscal year 25. So we've got one more year of that increase at 4%. I think maybe what she was referencing is over the cumulative effect of the rate increases over the next 6, 7, 8 years is going to be doubling.
Yeah, you know, I know your job is difficult right now. You know, this board has been saddled with rate increases like I haven't seen from any previous board in the last years. I understand the needs for this. And a lot of the other rate hikes like TICO, this board has nothing to do with, but tell the public that, you know, they're seeing this in their bills every month. And as far as the notice lease, I think you were touching on this. The speaker that spoke, she mentioned that she just saw it in her bill. Could you please elaborate again on the notice to the public? Because I just want to make sure that that's clarified as well.
Yes, thank you. So all of our customers receive water bills on a monthly basis, and it comes out, it's a cyclical thing. So every day about 7,000 to 10,000 water bills go out. Some of them are paper, some of them are e-bills, as Commissioner Wostel referenced. So we started invoicing or adding the notification on July 25th, and it went through August 25th. So it was that month worth of bills that went out. So did that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, that's really not impressive on I think, notice, just to be frank. So we'd say one month?
Right, yes. Yeah, and well, we received the approval from the board to start noticing in July, and so shortly thereafter, we started the noticing.
Okay.
Sorry.
And so we do the notification through the billing process because that's a statutory requirement. We have to do it that way.
Okay.
But that's not the only noticing that we do. We obviously we have public notices through the publications. I think the Tampa Bay Times and the Florida Central were also put legal ads. And I get it, you know, very few people are going to read a legal ad, but we try to get that out there as many ways as we possibly can, including for the first time ever, we put a pretty significant notice on our county website. So anybody that was accessing their water bill by going through the county website or accessing their account or any other information, it was very prominently displayed. So we tried to get it out there as best we can. We'll tell you that we did more this time around than we've probably done in the past, other than the noticing requirements required by statutes.
Okay. And you all, just for the record too, you all are recommending the lower initial rate increase, correct, rather than?
Option one.
Option one, okay.
Yes, sir.
I'll sit back and listen to other commissioners. Thank you.
I've got one question. I don't know if this is Bonnie or for George, but was the CIT considered as a potential funding source? And I guess also how realistic of an option is that currently, knowing that, I know legally we can, but knowing that the revenues are at or very near capacity now, and currently, as we sit here, it's not on the ballot for next year. Assuming it goes on the ballot, of course, we don't know if it will pass. So was it considered, and what are your general thoughts about that?
So maybe I can grab this one, George, if you want. The CIT absolutely is a legally available revenue source for this purpose. However, the CIT has really just in most recent years become available as on a pay-as-you-go basis, and as we know, it ends in 2026. So you all have really talked about more transportation, fire station type of infrastructure projects for CIT, and so that's really where we've put most of our emphasis. But legally, this is permissible, but we still, as we know, have so many transportation needs. We did not recommend it for this. We have looked at this as more of an enterprise fund, having the ratepayers, just those who are the ratepayers, pay for the existing system.
Well, my question is, can we legally use that as an option if the revenues don't exist right now or currently?
You could only, those which do currently exist, you could include it. So whether that's, let's say, $20 million, that could be applied, but not the future ones. I wouldn't recommend that, mostly because we don't know what we'll have exactly, and it's for such a limited time period. But you could do it on an annual basis, for sure.
Okay. Commissioner Cohen.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Hagan, for that question, and Administrator for your answer, because, you know, when we sit here and have discussions about our needs, particularly in terms of fire rescue and in terms of transportation, it's dire. And we're going to have a conversation in a minute about another proposal, you know, related to funding infrastructure needs that I think reflects the concern. But to take the money from this, to use that pot that we have, what little is available to us for infrastructure needs, and to use it to subsidize this, it's just a robbing Peter to pay Paul situation. And I just want to say, you know, we all sit on other boards, and we all see the toll that inflation and the cost of doing business and the cost of supply chain issues is taking across the board. And we can't expect to have a first-class water system, which we do, that provides water to millions of people. We can't expect to have a reliable system if we don't fund it properly. And I would say it is one of the few things in our community that I think we're doing a lot right with. Not one of the few things, but it's something we really can point to as an example of regional cooperation, an example of where we think down the road and we're planning for the future. And in terms of the notice, it is always difficult to raise rates. No one ever wants to do that. But people have gotten used to the fact that we have been doing this now for the last couple of years, 4% a year. And while the 5% does inch up from that, it, to me, is going through the 5% per year, the option one that's in front of us, it really is the most humane. It doesn't impose a 7% whammy on people right away. And it preserves our system, which has to be the backbone of this community. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Kemp?
We have talked a lot about water, our public safety, and we've talked about it in terms of our police and fire, but obviously it's public safety to have good, clean, potable water. I'd just like to, as to the conversation, yes, thanks for the question. I wanted to ask the same thing because we don't know that we are that the CIT will even be on the ballot for renewal. I think it runs out in 2026. I don't even know what kind of dollars are there now, but we're talking about bondable dollars. So it has to be a source that we can rely on. This being an enterprise system, what it means is all the customers that are using it are paying for it. It's a separate thing from our county budget, a segregated type of service. And I just like to, just a few things. One is that we had a fund for increasing capacity at one time. From what I understood, because I looked at this before, and historically, I guess we had a crisis here in terms of funding capacity because we keep growing at a blistering pace. And when you grow at a blistering pace, your infrastructure, just to keep up in any way, needs to also grow at a blistering pace. We have not done that with our roads, our visible infrastructure there. But we had no choice but to do that with our water and sewer. We had no choice but to move forward on that for public safety, for providing something essential and basic as water. So at one point back in the early 2000s, I think, the county was in a crisis because they did not have the funding to provide capacity, plant capacity to generate water and provide it. At that point, there was a fund that was started, and it was critically necessary. This is an impact fee for new growth to pay for itself. And they were charging, I believe, they started this in the early 2000s. I don't know if George has some exact dates, and I'm just doing this from memory. I didn't expect this discussion to happen. To start something called the AGRF, which would provide for capacity. And they decided to charge, I believe, about $8,000 per a new unit to provide for capacity. In addition, there was about $8,000 in impact fees that all along have had to be charged for connecting and hooking people up to the water system that was paid by developers. That it's expensive to provide our sewer and wastewater, and it is I think the least understood infrastructure because we don't see it, we don't think about it. It's pretty much hidden from us, but it's critical and essential. I'd have to even guess more essential than roads or any of the other things that we noticed. So a fund was started at the time, the AGRF, and it was $8,000 per unit to fund the capacity, the water capacity, wastewater capacity. And at that time, we kept that fund in place for many years. For some reason, I'll never understand. I went through the meeting notes, I looked at it, but in 2014, there was some decision that was made that somehow we were solvent and everything could be fine and we didn't have to charge that fee anymore. And there was a vote by the board in 2014 to end that impact fee, totally end it. And there was even some appeals done. Please don't do that in total, but it was done. And then we went for some 6 years or 8 years without that $8,000 per a unit. We had not money. We had lost, hundreds of millions of dollars by not having that impact fee in there. We restored it in about 2020. That was a lot of costs that I don't want to ignore when we go forward in the future, and I want that story to be known. But the other thing is we talk a lot about moving out the urban service line. For one thing, you're stretching your pipes for a long way, and that's a really costly, big infrastructure cost. But for second, if we do that, we're putting that cost on people. We're putting the cost on the taxpayers and not on the new infrastructure capacity. So because we've had those conversations here, and that is another way that you look at how you are saving on these infrastructure costs, I wanted to put that out there. I would just offhand, if the CIT could be used, I just think it's robbing Peter to pay Paul. We have to look at, I just think it's makes sense for this system to pay for itself, this enterprise system, and to look at making it sustainable and how we can always provide good water. And with everything else, we are no different than every other company. Everything you buy off the shelves, everything else is inflating. And, all the sources and resources, we're not filling jobs at the county because we don't have the people applying. We're not necessarily offering perhaps the competitive wages. We also know we have to renew all these contracts, bring them back in again for re-upping, because the cost, that is the cost of doing business and providing this very important and essential business here in Hillsborough County. So I'm fine with option one. I just think we have to move forward, and that this is the way we move forward to the future. And again, when it was pointed out, it was, I think, 2032 when some years ahead when we come at full rates by that. But it's obviously what we need to be doing to providing safe and accessible water here in the county.
Commissioner Wallstall?
How much in total would this new tax increase, this new bill increase generate every year? I think it was said at the last meeting, but I can't remember, and I didn't see it in the backup.
The rate consultant is busy at work right now, punching a calculator.
Rob will wait for the record. Each year, the 4%, very quick,
yeah,
is around $11 to $12 million of additional revenue. So as you think about that, each year it kind of compounds itself. And
sure.
That's the issue here is by phasing in rates, you minimize the impact of the existing ratepayer. And I can show you, there's another chart that Lisa Shittle talked about in a second. But that compounding is what gives you the rates. If you think about 11 million this year, 22 million the next year.
Oh, well, I get it.
Yeah, a lot of people don't think about that, plus the price indexing. There's also a chart in the presentation. I want to draw your attention back to that. It showed what other communities on the east coast of Florida and also on the west coast of Florida, mostly the west coast of Florida, but this one right here. As you can, I don't see that, there it is. This chart kind of shows you where we know there's rate phasing programs going on. Most of these are adopted. They've all generally been presented to their respective councils or commissions. And it shows you what is happening in the industry elsewhere. Lee County, for example, just adopted 5 years of 8% adjustments, for example. And so the needs of the county locally here is also being shared throughout the state and nationally. It's not just y'all, and the issues are the same. New expansion, old assets, we're becoming mature utilities. We're not just a growth utility anymore. That's the issue.
I'll stop you right there on your comparison. It's, I know it's your first time here, and I appreciate that you're obviously way into the weeds on this, but I have a pet peeve about how you lie with numbers, and I'm not suggesting that anyone's lying, but I'm just saying that misrepresentations can happen in charts like this, which leave out the fact that while this user rate for Hillsborough County is lower than other counties, we compared it to Lee County. What's not taken into consideration and the variable that's missed is that Hillsborough County is the third highest taxed county in the state of Florida. Lee County is 1% less sales tax annually, which right now accounts to almost $380 million a year if it was, right? So it's kind of an apples to oranges. They might not generate that much in their county, but that's how much more local taxes we have here. I know that then there'd be even more variables that could be argued about how many tourists we have compared to other places, but it's just that our cost of living in Hillsborough County in many other ways is higher than at least 64 of the other counties. So it's just that this chart doesn't give a full picture representation of the actual cost of living representation comparatively to what was added on there, I guess is my point. But some statements were said is that this would be used to make it an enterprise fund that's self-sustaining, but in reality, as the rate consultant, you were determining for future capacity in these rate increases, correct?
It includes future additional capacity being constructed to meet your needs, and also includes a significant amount of renewals and replacements to the existing assets.
So
that's being required.
So for the new capacity, though, then what we're doing is we're charging the current residents to expand the capacity for people that don't even live here yet, which is
No, that's not quite.
You said future capacity, correct?
Right, but you also have to look at the funding of that capacity as well, which was one of your points, I think, earlier, which I totally agree with. In the capital finance plan, we do utilize impact fees, which is, as new development occurs, they pay the impact fees. That's applied directly toward the debt of that system. Also for that capacity, we are bonding that capacity to spread that payment out over time. So as that growth occurs, they start, paying for that capacity. It's not shipped, it's not put on the backs of the existing ratepayer right away. The mention of the AGRF earlier, that was a part of that plan, was to capture that carry cost for those timing differences. And that reduction, or that temporary halt of that fee, 11, 12, $20 million a year of financial resources that came to the system. So you are right. We have to put the expansion in there. The system funds it as an enterprise fund. The rates stand alone. There's no support from the general fund for that. But we try to spread those expansion-related costs over time to allow that growth to occur and to minimize the impact as much as possible to the existing ratepayer.
Yeah, I have no question that you definitely put this in a way to be the least impacting to people that use the system.
There's always timing differences too, you're right, Commissioner. There's no doubt about that.
I just, thank you very much, sir. We have for all of those many reasons, I fully support the improvement of the infrastructure, the needs, the public safety and health issues that could occur if we don't do this. But with that being said, if the motion doesn't conform to our existing financial policy to fund water and wastewater in the way that says that we could utilize, that would be able to, in some form, subsidize. I think right now we're spending $55 million. It was said that we didn't know the current CIT numbers. We're spending about $55 million in the upcoming budget, and I think that there's about $35 million of CIT and reserves to anticipate escalating capital and infrastructure tax improvements. So next year, the writing on the wall, and sales taxes, infrastructure surtaxes are not as certain as this would be, but this would certainly be a way where it seems that we always find a way to make an excuse on these things to subsidize billionaires, but when there's an opportunity to subsidize regular working class people's cost of living, there seems to be many excuses and robbing Peter to pay Paul, et cetera. So unless the motion supports in some way that we shall utilize the infrastructure surtax that's already in place, namely AKA the community investment tax, I won't be able to support the motion. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Myers?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to come from a different angle, and I know we continue to talk about robbing Peter to pay Paul, and Paul is always broke, so Paul is always looking for some dollars. So when we had our workshop, when staff presented this to us, and I want to thank staff because you all broke it down to us very simple on the rates. And when we left the workshop meeting, I want to say that workshop I was trying to get from my staff could have been back in May or June. Well, we had the responsibility at that time to notify our constituents that we were anticipating a rate increase. I know I notified mine to let them know what was coming before the Board of County Commissioners. That is one of our responsibilities. They don't have to wait until they receive a notice in the mail. We are the elected officials, and anytime we're making a change or we're discussing a change, we should tell them what is forthcoming. That is one way to notify all of our constituents of the rate increase. The second thing is, I'm going to go ahead and make the motion because this is the right thing to do. I live in the city of Tampa, and I can tell you all of my bills, due to inflation, they have increased. Every last one. I started noticing them last month, and I'm in the boat with everyone else. No one wants a rate increase at no time. But it comes a time when we have to have rate increases to support what we like. Okay, I love cable. Football season is here. I have 6 boxes in my house. Every room I go in, I want to see the game. If I have to get up and move, I want to see the game. I have to pay for that. They charge me for every box I have in my house. But that's my choice, okay? The county, what we're facing right now with this water, in order for us to continue at the level we are, we have to pay for these things. We, as if you live in the unincorporated county, I live in the city, we have to pay. We want better. Our constituents tell us they want better. So we're at the point today, I'm going to go ahead and make the motion. The first motion is to extend the price index for another 10 years to sunset after 2035, and to extend the annual rate increase beginning October 1, 2025, which will sunset after 7 years, and to move for the approval of option number 1. That is my motion.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion to approve by Commissioner Myers, second Commissioner Cohen and Kemp. If there's no other comments on the motion, please record your vote.
Motion carried 5-2. Commissioners Cameron, Cepeda, and Wostel voted no.
All right. Good discussion. Bonnie, we have a 10:15 time certain.
Yes, sir. The next item is item G2. This is our 10:15 time certain. This is related to B1. We'll hear B1 afterwards. This is to receive a report regarding the Arts Council of Hillsborough County and the Cultural Assets Commission funding. Commissioner Cameron Cepeda had asked for the staff report.
Good morning, Commissioners. Ron Barton, Assistant County Administrator for Economic Prosperity. With me is your Director of the Arts Council, Martine Collier, who shall also be available for any questions. As you know, we had a report requested by Commissioner Cameron Cepeda, which we submitted to the board and is in your board package. For your consideration, we've just done a brief PowerPoint to summarize that report. And so, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, I'll just take a few minutes and run through a summary of that report. Am I driving the machine? Okay, I'm driving. So a couple of things just for background, because there were 2 things that were talked about in terms of the request, which was for financial information around funding of the Arts Council, the grant programs, and the Cultural Asset Commission. So I wanted to kind of go through both. So the first is the Arts Council has been in existence in its form since about 1989. It was a independent special district, so state statute, as well as county ordinance creating the Arts Council. And it had been funded and has been funded by Hillsborough County predominantly since that time. In May of 2021, the BOCC voted to bring the Arts Council in-house. So basically removed the status of a special district and brought it in-house as effectively a division of county government under economic prosperity, my administration. The Cultural Asset Commission was created in March of 2018, and its primary purpose was really to initiate what we call a special events partnership grant, SEPG, you'll see sometimes. And so we brought to the board enabling legislation to create that Cultural Asset Commission. It's a commission that's appointed by you, and it was charged with building and refining the program parameters for the special events program, but also reviewing those applications and making recommendations to you, the board, in how you fund those events. The Economic Development Department ran it initially just basically to get the training wheels off as we worked with the board in the creation of it. This past year, we have asked the Arts Council to basically be the administrator of that program. So gives you a little bit of history from all the way back to 1989 and how the Arts Council came to be in the county administration, and then also how the Cultural Asset Commission was created, but now we ask the Arts Council staff to administer that program, which this board has adopted. So that gives you a little bit of history. The Arts Council operating budget is a small one, and it's predominantly been the same for many, many years, even back when it was a special district. This funding is pretty consistent with the amounts that the county administration and the BOCC placed in the budget for them in past years. You will notice that, in fact, in 2023, the budget went down. This is the operating budget. And the reason is we were able to realize some cost savings when we brought them in-house. So they're small, but they're something. And so that's why when you look at that chart, you may say, well, why did it go down? We had some efficiencies associated with that. Again, the historical budget is 4 FTEs. And so that gives you a sense of the council's operating funding. The Arts Council also administers on behalf of the BOCC 3 grant programs. And they are from all the way from very small grants for artists, which you've heard some speak today, all the way up to some larger operational support for larger entities. The grant revenues in these cases are small, and that somehow got skipped. Let me go back. All righty, well, that's not supposed to be there, but I'll cover it. So in addition to the general fund support from the county, the Arts Council also gets revenue from other sources, primarily the state of Florida. And that's what this graphic is here. And so you can see it's been as small as about $8,000, but all the way up to $124,000 in a previous fiscal year. And these are grants associated with the state. And also there's the arts license plate revenues, which you'll note in the second bullet, in which they revert to the Arts Council as well. A small amount, but it helps. And those are supplements to the Arts Council budget that come from the state of Florida in those 2 sources. Sorry for digressing. The 3 grant programs that I just started to mention that the Arts Council operates, and this is independent of the Cultural Asset Commission. That grant budget process has been the same for years. And again, Martine's here, can answer questions in detail about the 3 grants themselves, but they are application-based. They're reviewed by the Arts Council Board, again, the committee that you've appointed, and they're vetted, and then recommendations are made associated with funding in those various 3 grants. As was mentioned, any unused funds in everything that we talk about this morning, any unused funds revert back to the general fund. So whether it's $1 or it ends up being $10,000 or $20,000 from the Arts Council side, or as we'll talk about in a minute, on the Cultural Asset Commission side, they revert back to the general fund. Just some examples from the 3 grants for the Arts Council, and most importantly, just that first bullet. This is a typical number, but about 56 different artists, individuals, and nonprofits in our community are recipients of grants associated with the Arts Council. There's some examples up here, even the free photography for workshops for local veterans, that's through a USF program. And you can see also local community theaters and dance and grants to individual artists. The Cultural Asset Commission, as I mentioned, was brought under the Arts Council after the Economic Development Department administered it for a couple of years. That funding, again, has been fairly consistent at $2.1 million. That program has a very disciplined approach as well. It's application-based. The committee, with the board members that you've appointed, vets those applications. I can tell you they're very rigorous in the questions. They evaluate not only what the application for the future, but how did they do in the past if they received funding. It's a match requirement as well. And, historically, that full grant amount, budget amount hasn't been used as well. And so any of the amounts that are unused, which have typically been around $1 million to a little bit more, have reverted back to the general fund in each year. Coming to closure. Special events grants, again, the operative there is about 29, that's a rounded number, recipients that go through the special events program. And many of these are well known to you, from the Gasparilla Music Festival all the way to small neighborhood festivals at Carewood or in Ruskin or Riverview or Brandon. And so those are activities. And lastly, you've heard some economic impact numbers. You can read them. The reason that we moved the Arts Council under economic prosperity when we did bring them here is because we believe the arts are fundamentally economic impact and economic development. And so it's really, though, just as importantly, it's a placemaking component to the board strategy. And those are conversations that we've had over the years. Some of you didn't participate because you're new, but those strategies that we talked about were how can the arts, as well as other programs, create a better place. And that place is more attractive for talent, for companies moving here. And so the strategy was arts is really about economic development. And so with that, thank you for your patience. And answer any questions. And Martine, again, is available as well for any of the details associated with the program. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ron. Appreciate your presentation. Commissioner Cameron Cepeda.
So yes, well, I don't have any questions for you. Thank you very much. I appreciate your
Yes, ma'am.
presentation there. I just would like to share some things. So these millions of dollars here we're talking about, first of all, I'll say yes, most of us would say yes, we love the arts. It's amazing. But we're talking about millions of dollars a year here. People keep saying it's just it's a small amount. But we're talking millions of dollars here a year. And this is not free money. The money we're talking about are taxes by hardworking people of Hillsborough County. And when they pay these taxes, when people pay taxes, they're expecting basic services from the county, such as public safety, transportation, and roads. And I'm also thinking about, people with stories, that I've heard about, that people tell me, a lady that she swerved, to try to miss a huge pothole so she wouldn't get out of control, but she ended up getting out of control. To miss the pothole, she hit another car, was in an accident, and years later still suffering in pain from that accident. Another story I can tell you I heard about is a gentleman that he had a flat tire, did not have the money to pay to buy one tire. He finally got the money to pay for one tire so he could have transportation. And the very day he put the new tire on the car, he hit a pothole, blew that tire out. And not only that, I'm thinking about the single moms and the single dads out there that are struggling, all the taxes they're paying, and they're still struggling to put food on the table for their babies and their children. And not only that, there's families, parents out there working more than one job, just trying to make ends meet. This millions of dollars that some people want to call a small amount, this is their money. This is their hard-earned money, and we need to be responsible with how we spend their money. Yes, the arts is awesome, but as you can see here, we have many things that we're behind that we need to take care of in this county, such as transportation, public safety, and we have to dig in the budget, find where we can use this money to take care of that and not raise taxes on people, to spend the money, you know, just because, you know, people think it's a wonderful thing. And yes, it could be a wonderful thing, but it's not. The taxpayers they're expecting things for their money. And services that are just the right thing to do is to provide for is our public safety, transportation, and other things that we need here in this county. And so I believe we should keep the money in the hands of the hardworking taxpayers of this county and not raise taxes for the things that we need here. When we have the money, we just dig in the budget and see where the funds are that we can move around. And I know some people out there shaking their heads, you know, we'd rather spend it that way, but we have to think about what the taxpayers want to spend, how they want to spend their money. And this on the basic services that we need to take care of here in the county. And so with that being said, I could say a lot more with that, but I'll just keep it at that. So I would like to make a motion to reallocate the funding currently budgeted for the Arts Council and Cultural Asset Program so that we can instead put those dollars toward our shortfalls in the county's basic services like transportation and public safety.
Okay, we got a motion by Commissioner Cameron Cepeda. Do we have a second?
I just have some questions first.
Okay, Commissioner Wilson.
Are you looking to, I have questions for Mr. Barton too, because I'm stunned by some of the numbers that are in there. Is your motion to completely reallocate 100%, like to end, are you effectively asking to end the Arts Council?
Yes.
Okay. I'll second your motion. Just based on, Mr. Barton, could you confirm to me that, so you said that they grant only about $1 million of the $2 million that's there?
That's correct, round numbers.
But the operations costs for 2021 were $580,000. So is that saying that we spent $580,000 to gift $1 million? The operations budget was $580,000, but you said that we only gifted $1 million, because this sounds like a horrible program if this is what the charts say.
You're talking about this operating budget here?
Correct.
Now, that's the operating budget for the entire operation. So it's the conduct of the work program of the Arts Council. It's 3 grants that they have historically administered, and they have now taken on the responsibility of administering the special events grants too. So it's the entirety of the now 4 grants, which they do for this operating budget.
Which is a total of how much annually that those 4 grants then? I see you said that they only give away $1 million of the $2.1 million. So these other 3 grant programs is $415,000, and that's 100% used, or how much? What is the ratio of that?
It's probably between 80 and 100%.
Okay.
Any given year, it's not the same.
So still though, then we spent $600,000 of property taxes on operations to give away $1.4 million. This sounds like just a bad program financially.
Well, so I think what you're taking into consideration is the Arts Council has an entire work program. So their existence day to day isn't just to hand out the grant money. So they're facilitators, they're conveners of the arts community. There's all kinds of things that they're doing in their day-to-day jobs It's like, it was like the incentives that we used to do with economic development. That wasn't the only thing that we did in terms of promotion of our community for job creation and attraction of companies. That just happened to be one program we used at the time. So I think it's probably, it is unfair to typify it as this is all they do are these grants and they give away this money. So that's the best way I can answer. We can come back with a little bit more information about, the annual work plan for the Arts Council, but I think that's a more fair conversation to be had rather than just seeing that that's how much it costs to give away money.
It's not my report. I'm just working with what was given to me, and it looks like we spent $600,000 to give away 1.4. So that's what's here. So that's what I'm going to operate with for now, since there's a motion on the floor.
Okay, Commissioner Owen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I've heard some of the speakers say $3 million. They used the words $3 million. I just want to make sure I have the numbers right of what is coming out of the general fund, the countywide. Can you clarify that just for the public? We've had a lot of numbers that are thrown around. I just want to make sure we're clear on it.
Well, I would guess that the $3 million they're referring to is the aggregate of all of the funding elements that we talked about here in the report. So you've got the $2.1 million that's allocated to the CAC. And then you would add to that $415,000 for the 3 grant programs. And then you have the operating budget for the Arts Council, which you see is $370,000. So that's, I suspect when someone's talking about $3 million, it's the aggregate of those amounts.
Got it.
In round numbers.
And Ms. Wise, these funds, how could we allocate these funds as a board if they're not being used through the Arts Council?
So these are county-wide funds, and so it would be available for any county-wide purpose for which it's flexible dollars, but for county-wide funds.
And I look at the conclusion, and I look at, because obviously, return on investment is really important to me. If I see that we're doing something, we're spending money and we're making a lot of money, that's really important. But we just kind of have a general conclusion at the end that shows $20 million, close to $21 million in local government revenue. Is that, I don't really have a breakdown. There's so many different grant programs that probably don't net money, correct? Mm-hmm. And then there's maybe a few that do. Is that safe to say that there may be some, Gasparilla Music Festival, for example, may net us a positive return, but some of these other ones may be negative. Is that safe to say?
Sure. When you look at them in an individual basis, exactly. What this is, by the way, there'll be an update in October, as someone mentioned. So even though this looks a little dated, they're in the process of updating that. This is the aggregate impact of the entire arts community. So no one's standing here today telling you that the Arts Council did this.
Right, and that's what I want to clarify that.
We're a team player.
Okay.
As I said before, a facilitator, a creator, an enabler in some cases through our grant programs. But it's the aggregate picture of what that part of the community means. And we're a small part of it. My analogy is that's a mighty effort for 4 individuals to participate with the community and do that. And so that gives you, better perspective. No one's saying that's the Arts Council's impact.
Yeah, because it's a pretty powerful conclusion when you read that. Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to make sure we clarify that. I think the arts are important too. I think, the cultures, it makes your community. And I think that, I looked at a lot of these programs. Unfortunately, I'm a District 4 commissioner, and I'm very District 4 centric, and I admit that. And there's not too much that goes on in East and South County with these fundings, but I do understand that the arts concentrate on the urban core. One thing I'd like to get clarity to on this motion, and this is more a question, I guess, for you, Bonnie, is I think in the motion it says to allocate those funds. Do we have to, does the motion have to be specific where to allocate, or could that be done, would that be done through budgeting? Or I guess I just want to understand the motion and the impact on how we would be supposed to act if this motion passes. Do we have to, would we just do that through the budgeting process on where to reallocate these funds?
I think you could do that through the budgeting process.
Okay, so it wouldn't have to be done now. The motion as is, okay.
I don't think so.
Yeah, okay, all right, that's all I have. I'll listen to other commissioners.
Commissioner Cohen?
Thank you very much. I don't think it comes as a surprise that I'm not in favor of this motion. While I recognize the need to look in the budget everywhere we can to effectuate savings and fund critical needs, Commissioner Cameron Cepeda, you yourself said this isn't a particularly large amount of money in the grand scheme of the $9 billion budget.
I was saying people are saying that. Other people are saying that.
Got it. But quite frankly, I think of this money as an investment. I used to argue for the arts because of what it means to the soul and the nature of our community. But what I've come to learn, as the presentation pointed out, is that this is money that is really well spent. It's money that helps us attract corporations and attract jobs and attract tourists. And it's something that really keeps us, when we wonder why so many people want to visit this region. I just came from a meeting at the airport, and we'd love to say it's because we have a wonderful airport, but once you get here via the airport, you still have to have things to do and places to go. And one of the things that we are really becoming known for as a community is an arts mecca. We offer so many different varieties of ways for people to enjoy the arts and culture in this community. History Center, the Aquarium, the Straz Center, the Art Museum, all the wonderful organizations that we fund. And I would just submit to you that we get a huge bang for the buck out of that money. We get revenue back in terms of hotel taxes, restaurants make money. It's a really, really good investment. And I would just close by saying that I actually think the amount of money that we spend is inadequate. I think we ought to spend more. I think it's actually an investment that will yield results for our people. You made a very compelling statement about the struggles that people are facing. I would think of it, though, in another paradigm, and that's the person who's making a decision about where to relocate their company. And they come here and they find out about this community and they say, you know what? I'm going to bring my 50 or 100 jobs here. And now there's 50 or 100. I just read about one yesterday that's moving from California to the Tampa Bay area. 50 new jobs, good paying jobs. That, I think, is a compelling reason to support making this investment because it clearly, clearly helps us grow economically.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Kemp?
I also would not support any resolution anything to change our funding for the arts. And in fact, I was, as Commissioner Cohen said, I never kind of looked at it in the scope of how much, even though I'm the Arts Council board now, I did not know exactly what the budget was. I didn't know how many people were employed. We have quarterly meetings. I'm a newer board member. I was, when I started finding out this information, I was rather shocked by our lack, and I'll say investment, in this area. I was like stunned. 56 out of the 56 departments that the county has in terms of funding. It has 4 full-time people. I don't even understand this, quite honestly. I was going to ask about it after. For $200,000 employed in the department. And I know that Commissioner Wastel kept giving a 2-year-old figure, or 3-year, the highest figure, but it actually went down from the funding for that department went down from $580,000 in 2021 to when it was brought under the county to $370,000. So that's, like almost $200,000 less money invested in that. since it came under the county, because there's been efficiencies made in how things are going, and that made a lot of sense for us to do that. That being said, to have, again, we are physically the size of the state of Rhode Island, except the state of Rhode Island has about 1 million people. We have about 1,500,000 people in Hillsborough County. This $3 million, of which some of it wasn't even allocated, $3 to $4 million, but portion wasn't even allocated if they didn't find a worthy project to support in this community, came back to us. And I think that just shows wisdom on the part of the applications that were being assessed and what we could do. The return on investment, you know, you could say, oh, well, the arts, well, this is more than the Arts Council. Yes, but we are part of this. This was a national survey to do, and it said in here from 2017, $433 million in nonprofit art and cultural investment in this community, some 15,000 arts-related jobs in this community. I think it's really important that this is recognized as an economic engine, but an attractor for people, for you know, to, as well, our spiritual, our heart and souls. And I'll just say that my kids are in their 30s now, but they went to Philip Shore Elementary School for the arts, and it's a magnet school, and it was had a lot of subsidized school lunches, as well as parents that sent their kids there in Ybor City. I don't know anymore. I mean, that's many years ago. But I will tell you, I was a little stunned when I saw that for a couple years, Philip Shore had the highest math scores in the entire county. And they said that a lot of the art students, particularly in music, have that mesh with math, and that kind of enrichment that brings. I think it's incredibly important that we foster, that we feed, enable, support our arts community because of the benefits that it brings us all. And actually, when Commissioner Cohen mentioned the airport, one of the first things I thought about, because it's gotten so much attention, I thought you were going to talk about the flamingo that has been all over the country, a piece of art from the airport that has been, you know, nationally, even internationally bragged up. You know, I'm not sure that anybody's flying in here to see the flamingo, but they might be. And so we, you know, we are a center for that. I'm really proud of that. We have our river walk. We have all these wonderful things that bring people to this area, and the arts and the performance and the music and all of that, the physical art that we have here, I think is extraordinarily important, and it does provide the things that the top 10 list said. You know, it facilitates, it creates, enables, but civic engagement, cohesion, community sharing, it's just so important to the soul of this community. And this is, I'm a shockingly de minimis investment, and one that can't be translated economically. I mean, you had asked about, again, I'll say my thing. This is the countywide budget that supports this. This is not the unincorporated that supports the infrastructure of unincorporated. So it's not like we could take this $3 million and it wouldn't even do that and build a fire station, or it'd be very limited what we might be able to use in paving potholes somewhere. So it's just not, it's not really even translatable that way, but we wouldn't want to lose something that this is so rich and important to our souls here. So I would not be supporting this de minimis investment.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Kemp. Commissioner Myers?
Thank you. I know we're doing a lot of, first let me thank you, Commissioner Cohen, for your comments and what you said. But when we look at this agenda item, it's only to ask for state funding.
That's the next one. That's the next item.
No, we're on the arts. Oh, we're on the...
Yeah, this is a report.
Oh, on the report.
We're gonna do that.
Okay, I can talk about the report. In the report, I'm not going to support the motion that is on the floor. Taxpayers want to have a place to go. Gasparilla, the art festival, different things. People enjoy entertainment. They enjoy entertainment. Tax dollars should be used to support entertainment. What I'm hearing more now, we have all of our large organizations worried now because everything come before us here recently is a cut. But the economic impact of all of these organizations, what they're bringing here, okay? We're talking about the art in the report, okay? Supporting the Art Council. Think about it. The pictures we just witnessed, Ron, bring them back up so they can just see the number of people that's supporting these projects. It's not a few people, there are hundreds of people. Hundreds of people. See that slide? Okay? Not only are the people here in Tampa that lives in Hillsborough County, but they're coming from all over to support. And sometimes that's what we are missing. It's just not for us to benefit, but it's people who coming here, and thank you, Ron, that benefits this. So I can move on because I'm not going to support the motion.
All right, thank you. Before we go back around the queue, I'm going to make a couple of comments. First of all, I want to thank everyone who emailed us and who came down this morning to share your comments and concerns on the importance of continuing our arts funding. As we heard loud and clear, folks are quite passionate about the arts. On this board, I think I am generally viewed as more of a youth sports and parks and recreation commissioner, and while that is most definitely true, it may surprise some to know that I'm also a big supporter of the arts. That's not to say I'm at the theater every weekend, because I'm typically at my daughter's softball tournament somewhere in the state, or at a Gator home football game like I will be this weekend. But that being said, I recognize the importance of the arts from both a quality of life and economic perspective. We often say that we want to be a world-class community in the best county in the nation. Well, that does not happen without robust cultural offerings and a thriving art scene. That's why I am very proud to have championed the Carrollwood Cultural Center, the new Tampa Performing Arts Center, and the Cultural Assets Commission. Now, I don't have any issue with Commissioner Cameron Cepeda asking for a report about any department or agency's funding, because candidly, we shouldn't have any sacred cows. Every department should be subject to the same transparency and program efficiencies and improvements. As Commissioner Cameron Cepeda stated, people are struggling. We have the need to be responsible with their tax dollars and should focus on our core services like public safety and transportation. But I do not believe, or let me just say that public safety, transportation, and arts funding, they are not mutually exclusive. However, my primary concern here is the timing. We are 2 weeks from adopting our budget, and prior to Commissioner Cameron Cepeda asking for this report, we have made it very clear for months that while we will be approving a nonprofit policy, any potential changes will be considered in fiscal year 25. So to me, it would be fundamentally unfair to apply different standards to another organization or program that is centered around nonprofits. I'm not saying that we can't take a look at different areas, and if improvements or efficiencies are warranted, I'm comfortable having that discussion. Again, I championed and created the Cultural Assets Commission. I'm comfortable with having a conversation. Can we improve it? Can we do things better? I'm okay with that. But to change direction 2 weeks before a budget adoption, while we've operated under a different policy or a different budgetary approach, I think is patently unjust. So all that being said, I want my feelings to be crystal clear to everyone in the arts community that I have always supported the arts and I will continue to support the arts. So I'm not going to support the motion. I'm going to pass the gavel to Commissioner.
I just need to address something.
Hold on. I'm going to pass the gavel to Commissioner Myers and just make a substitute motion that we receive the report. So that's my motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Hagan and second by Commissioner Kemp. Commissioner Cepeda.
Oh, yes, so you mentioned about putting the slides up there and how wonderful that is. Yes, but I'm gonna tell you, one of the things listed up there is for the veterans. And when I checked into that, not $1 has been put towards the veterans for the Arts Council. That was my research that I did on that. And also you mentioned about the salaries. Wow, that's great. 4 people for that salary. One person in there makes $129,000 of that money, just so you know, to make that clear. And you mentioned about fire stations. And yeah, a fire station, when it comes to public safety and somebody needed help at that time, that's very important. Somebody's health and their lives are at stake. But so I just wanted to share that, and you've heard my views already on everything else. So,
thank you, Commissioner Watson.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. I have a deep amount of respect for you, Commissioner Cohen, but I can't help but be overwhelmed with the hypocrisy that has gone on today. You have 2 countywide commissioners suggesting to you that we don't agree with the use of these countywide funds, except for in different meetings you openly advocate for the existence of countywide commissioners being the voice and the eyes of looking out for the countywide needs. But here we are yet again. I think that the voters should be in no way surprised that we are in the same meeting finding endless excuses to reappropriate funds to subsidize your needs, and we are now finding endless excuses to utilize funds for personal wants. And I'm not surprised at all that we find ourselves here. We can receive the report today, look into the funds later. I still haven't gotten a clear picture of these numbers. Just seem bad. I'm a supporter of the arts. One thing I would say that was very unfair to this report, Mr. Barton, does this report reflect all of the funds that Hillsborough County pays into the arts? Or does it only reflect to this specific council?
This is unique to the Arts Council.
In fact, we spend millions more external from this council on the arts in Hillsborough County that's not on this report. Is that correct?
I'd defer that to the administrator.
Right. This is specifically for the Arts Council and the cultural program. That was the request.
Yeah, so to be clear for Commissioner Cepeda's report and all of the public speakers, we spend millions, at least double more that I know of, that is represented on this report on arts. So to suggest that we don't all support arts in this community would be completely inaccurate. What we're saying right now is, are we prioritizing our needs over our wants? So it's clear where this is going, but I am just overwhelmed with the levels of hypocrisy that I've heard today. But unfortunately for the voters, I sit here unsurprised. Thank you.
Commissioner Owens.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, and I do too find it interesting on, I think this board needs to come up with an idea on what's a lot of money, because sometimes it depends on the issue that we're addressing at the time, where it becomes a lot of money and then it's not a lot of money. So I just do find that interesting. And while I love river walks, I love the arts, I love the flamingo. I've taken a picture in front of it. I represent District 4, and they have told me loud and clear what's important to them right now, and it's roads, infrastructure, public safety. Ms. Wise, I feel like it's Groundhog Day with this. With the countywide funds, can you clarify again what those funds could be? Is there public safety components and roads that those funds could be spent on?
Yes.
Okay. So I just like to make that clear. I know we've gone over and over on that. So, I would be supporting Commissioner Cepeda's motion as well. So thank you.
Okay, we have a substitute motion by Commissioner Hagan, so let's record the vote. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Kemp.
I was just going to, since it's been brought, but you couldn't, for instance, take these funds and build a fire station in unincorporated county. Sorry to put you on the spot over and over again.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. This is to receive the report.
Yes.
So point of order, I'm sorry. So this is, you made a substitute motion to receive the report. Will Ms. Cepeda's motion be heard?
No,
No.
it just passes.
So if we vote yes to receive the report and it passes, then her motion dies. Thank you.
Motion carried 4-3. Commissioners Cameron, Cepeda, Owen, and Wostall voted no.
All right, thank you. B1?
Thank you. B1 is the next item. This is regarding a state grant.
County Administrator. B1 is a good news item. It relates to the fact, as we talked about earlier, the Arts Council receives, on occasion, grant monies from the state of Florida. That amount for FY24 is $66,625. As part of the budget process, the Arts Council, as well as many other departments, make estimates associated with what they might receive on the budget. As it turns out, we need a budget amendment because the funds that we're going to receive from the state are actually slightly higher than we budgeted. So hence, that's the need for adjusting the budget by $5,032 to reflect that we're receiving more money from the state. And then, like many state agreements and others, we have a matching requirement. So we need to do a budget amendment to increase the match by $2,516, which is half of the unbudgeted amount. That essentially is the agenda item for B1.
All right, can we have a motion?
Move approval.
Motion to approve, Commissioner Kemp, second Commissioner Cohen. With no comments, please record your vote.
Motion carried 6-0.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ron. Bonnie, next item.
Thank you. We can move to the regular agenda now. This is item B2. This is to approve a resolution by the Housing Finance Authority for multifamily revenue bonds. Mary Helen Ferris from the County Attorney's Office will present this item.
Morning, Mary Helen.
Good morning. Mary Helen Ferris with the County Attorney's Office. This item is requesting that the board adopt a resolution approving the issuance by the Housing Finance Authority of bonds for the project Belmont Heights Estates in the amount of $31,700,000. It's located in Tampa. There will be 266 rental units, and the set aside is for 50 years, and there are no county funds involved. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Can we have a motion?
Move approval.
Motion to approve, Commissioner Kemp.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Cohen. For no comments, please record your vote. Push yes.
Commissioner Myers? Motion carried 7-0.
B3.
Thank you. The next item is item B3. This is to award a contract for 911 services and software licensing agreement. Scott Stromer with Procurement Services will present this item.
Good morning.
Good morning. Scott Stromer, Procurement Services. Item B3 is asking the board to award and execute an agreement with the highest ranked and best qualified firm, Communications Venture Corporation, doing businesses in digital for a new next generation 911 core system and services for the Performance Data and Analytics Department and Public Safety 911 at a total cost of $18,515,523.63. The new system includes a backup secondary call handling system, will help minimize downtime and this even if service outages or disasters, among other features. Procurement Services does recommend approval.
Thanks, Scott. Can we have a motion?
Move for approval.
Motion to approve, Commissioner Myers, second Commissioner Cohen. For no comments, please record your vote.
Motion carried 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Your next item is item F1. This is your appointment to the appointments to the Diversity Advisory Council. Luann Finley will take you through that process.
We might want to wait till we get a couple commissioners come back here. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and do the next. Let's go ahead and do the next item.
The next one was a report that Commissioner Cameron Cepeda had asked for, and she's out of the room.
You want to go ahead? Why don't you go ahead and do mine?
Okay, we'll go to yours then.
That's only gonna take a
Item
second.
G3, this is to receive a report regarding potential safety enhancements on Morris Bridge Road. Commissioner Hagan, you had requested the staff report. Josh Bellotti is here for this item.
Good morning, Josh.
Hello, good morning, Commissioners. Josh Bellotti, Engineering and Operations. At the August 2nd BOCC meeting, the board directed staff to bring back a report outlining a recommended action plan, including potential short and long-term safety improvements on Morris Bridge Road. The county's traffic engineering staff has conducted a safety study of this approximately 9.5-mile corridor of Morris Bridge Road from the Pasco County line to I-75. Staff analyzed crash data dating back to 2018, looking at crash numbers by severity, category, and type. Findings of the study showed that passing on this 2-lane road is a leading cause of crashes, with more than half of crashes involving lane departure. Another leading cause of crashes is speeding, with a large percentage of vehicles traveling more than 10 miles an hour above the speed limit. So based on that, the team sought to identify countermeasures to reduce speeding and lane departure crashes. One project that the county was able to complete last year was at the intersection of Corey Lake Boulevard, where a new southbound right turn lane was installed along with marked bicycle lane, and vertical delineators were added to discourage illegal passing. Looking ahead, staff has identified a number of additional short-term improvements to recommend for this corridor, which will help to further enhance safety and address these leading causes of crashes on Morris Bridge Road. They're summarized in your backup material and include enhancements such as no passing zones with vertical delineators and reflective and profiled lane line markings. These are to address passing and lane departure, and also enhancements like speed feedback signs and flashing beacons and rumble strips ahead of intersections and curves to help reduce speeding. In all, approximately $825,000 in short-term improvements were identified to help enhance safety and reduce crashes along this Morris Bridge Road corridor. The study also does identify some long-term improvements for future consideration, such as traffic signals or roundabouts at some of the intersections. These would, of course, require further study. So I'll stop there and offer to answer any questions that you might have on this report.
Thanks, Josh. I appreciate the presentation. Excellent report. Board members, I brought this forward several meetings ago to highlight how dangerous Morris Bridge has become. I'm very familiar with this area. I lived there I used this thoroughfare for 6 years when I lived in New Tampa. As the report says, there have been 217 crashes since 2018, several deaths, most recently on June 2nd when 2 adults were killed and 2 others were injured. The report does a great job of documenting the crash data and identifying potential short and long-term improvements we can consider. For the purposes of today, I just want to pass the gavel and make a motion to accept the report and then ask staff to come back with a recommendation on short-term improvements we can make, as well as a timeline and funding source. So that's just for the purposes.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Hagan, second by Commissioner Wastel. I don't see any other comments. Please record your vote.
Motion carried 6-0.
Thank you.
G4.
Did you want to go up to G4?
G4, yep.
Okay, we'll get through some of these staff reports real quick, or?
Yep, let's do that.
Okay. Item G4 was Commissioner Owen's item.
Okay.
Do we want to go to G1?
I guess we can do G1.
G1, Commissioner Cameron Cepeda is here. Commissioner Cameron Cepeda had asked for this report. This is a report regarding the Community Development Block Grant Overview. Sorry. CDBG, better known as. Brenda
Morning.
Brackens is here for this item.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Brenda Brackens, and I'm the Interim Affordable Housing Director. Commissioner Cameron Cepeda directed staff to bring back a report on the Community Development Block Grant, known as the CDBG grant, which was enacted in 1974. We've also provided a report for your review. Hillsborough County receives funding from HUD, and we're considered an entitlement agency, meaning that we don't apply for these funds. HUD provides an annual allocation to us based on a formula, and the sole purpose of it is to develop viable urban communities, provide decent housing, expand economic opportunities, and improve community facilities and services, primarily for low and moderate income clients and households. Here's a list of the annual allocations that have been received by Hillsborough County over the past 10 years. Up to 20% of this allocation can be used for administrative expenses. That includes salaries and benefits and other administration costs that we use to run the program. And also, we can use up to 15% of this funding for public services. Now, the funding for public services serves our most vulnerable clients. We use it for populations such as domestic violence victims, physically challenged seniors, foster care children, veterans, the disabled, and the homeless. We also provide funding to our partner agencies for public services projects, which typically includes rehab, construction, upgrades, and improvements of facilities. Here's a timeline of the CDBG planning and award process. And although this process is very important, I'd just like to talk about the RFP process. When we met with the commissioners, we went through this in detail. Once the funding has been approved and you all have approved the funding grant that we have with HUD, Affordable Housing initiates an RFP process, and we work in conjunction with Procurement Services, Management and Budget, and also our County Attorney's Office to go through this process where we bring back everything that's been awarded and bidded. So the RFP committee that we have is composed of non-affordable housing staff members, and we also focus on diversity within that committee. And the committee is responsible for reviewing proposals, scoring, and ranking them based on a predetermined criteria. This is a list of eligible activities that can be funded with the CDBG grant, but there are more items that are detailed in your report, and that's on pages 3 and 4. Each activity for CDBG funding must meet one of the following national objectives. So it must benefit low and moderate income persons or households. It must prevent or eliminate slum or blight, or it must address community development needs that have a particular urgency because existing conditions pose a serious and immediate threat to the health or welfare of the committee. Now, this list shows a list of ineligible activities. And because Hillsborough County is one of the larger entitlement agencies in the state of Florida, we're often audited for this particular program. And Hillsborough County has established a standard for utilizing comprehensive strategies to support policy development, innovative housing practices, and impactful partnership. Not only are we often recognized by HUD, but Florida Housing Coalition will often use our practices and our projects in their training. And prior to Cheryl and I coming to Hillsborough County, affordable housing was plagued with a lot of audit issues, both on the program side and on the financial side. And these audit issues jeopardized our funding with our federal and our state awards. And we take pride in the fact that we have not had any audit issues since we've been here, and that's mainly because we stay away from a lot of these ineligible projects and activities that are on this list. Now, HUD requires that we do a lot of plans and reports each year. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes to make sure that we are in compliance. And one of the plans is the consolidated plan, and we know it as our CON plan. And our con plan must be submitted every 5 years. Right now, we're in year 3 of our con plan. And the plan serves as a framework for identifying housing and community development priorities based on both data analysis and citizen input. We also have an annual action plan. That's the plan that we brought before you last month. The annual action plan must be submitted to HUD by August 15th of each year. And this plan serves as a roadmap for the allocation of resources and the implementation of projects. It outlines specific actions, activities, federal and non-federal resources that will be utilized and have been identified in the con plan. We also have a consolidated annual performance and evaluation report, and it's known as our CAPER. And this must be submitted annually. And what that does is it assesses the progress in our accomplishments. Lastly, we have what's called a substantial amendment. We also brought a substantial amendment to you last month. And a substantial amendment is submitted when there are changes to projects or activities that have been approved in our annual action plan. So the board must approve any amendments, ensuring that any modifications to the funded initiatives are in line with the community needs and program and goals. So in conclusion, I would like to add that we have been working with Josh Bellotti and his team, and they have identified sidewalks within our areas, in the low to moderate income areas. And over the next 2 years, we plan to expend $5 million of our CDBG dollars to pay for sidewalks. And our team also provides technical assistance workshops to support nonprofit agencies that are interested in participating in our program. These workshops are for existing, new, and potential agencies that would like to apply for funding. And the purpose of these workshops is to help our agencies navigate the application process and understand the program requirements. So I thank you for giving me your attention, and I'm here for any comments or questions that you may have.
All right, thank you. If we don't have any comments or questions, can we have a motion to receive the report?
Move for approval.
Motion to receive the report, Commissioner Meyer, second Commissioner Kemp. Please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next staff report is to receive a report on the emergency response to Pine Key. Commissioner Owen had requested this item. Deputy Chief Doherty is here to present this item.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm here on behalf of Chief Jones. He actually took a vacation day, believe it or not. I don't think he's done that in the last 8 years. So first of all, before I get started, I just wanted to thank each and every one of you for joining us in celebrating our 50-year celebration banquet recently. I can't tell you how much that meant to the over 1,200 employees of Fire Rescue, and just wanted to make sure we thank every one of you for everything, all your support and the support of that night. It was a monumental night, and really appreciate it. So moving on to the Pine Key report that Commissioner Owens asked for some background. I believe all of you have been given a memo that kind of directs the timeline, so I'm not going to go over that detail by detail. At the end, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer, but in light of time and lunch getting here, I'm sure you guys want to get through this. So the summary of the call that day was Memorial Day weekend, and it was a 26-year-old victim that unfortunately drowned. And so to kind of give a timeline of that, the call came in around 4:53 on that Sunday afternoon on May 28th. It was about a 24-minute response time, which is typical for us to get the fireboat in the water and respond to Pine Key. We also responded with Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, Tampa Fire Rescue, and the Coast Guard. So numerous agencies responded to Pine Key Island for the emergency. Most of the 911 calls came in or all the 911 calls came in from citizens, boaters out in the water. That's how we received the call. We didn't receive any call from Pine Key Island per se, just vessels on the water that were calling and let us know that there was possibly a drowning victim in the water and for us to respond out. It was on the east side of the island. It's shallow water that drops off it goes from about 2 feet to 17 feet of water. So unfortunately, the gentleman was trying to capture his boat that was drifting away. He stepped off onto the shelf and went from 2 feet of water to about 17 feet of water. The search and rescue efforts took place for about 4 hours until we ran out of daylight. At that point, all agencies were, had to suspend the search. The next day, Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office went out for body recovery and were able to locate the victim and found the victim. That kind of summarizes that call, unfortunate call that we responded to. If I could answer any questions, I'd be happy to.
Thank you, Chief. Commissioner Owen?
Good to see you.
Okay, good to see you.
Yeah, thanks for this report. And you alluded to it, and I wanted to really talk about security that is on the island because in some ways I've been assured that there's security there and folks that are retired EMT. Clarify again, so the calls that came to you were not from any security people on the island, it was other boaters?
No, sir, we did not make any contact with anybody per se on the island that was an employee or anything like that. All calls received were from citizens that were enjoying, I guess, the Memorial Day weekend on their vessels. And they do have a part on the kind of the beach that's two posts, red posts in the water that allow for an emergency vessel. But a lot of times that's very difficult to get to based on the surroundings.
The way I look at it when I see aerial views is I just see kind of anchored boats everywhere. And so if they've designated let's call it a fire lane, like Publix has a fire lane,
yes, sir.
Can you realistically, from just your experience, can you all get through that fire lane, or do those boats pose a obstacle, if you will?
Yeah, obviously obstacles, especially on a weekend like that when the waterways are crowded. We have to do what we can to navigate through the process to get to a beach landing.
Yeah. Yeah, well, great. Well, I really appreciate you being here today and all the work you've done on this. I don't know if any other commissioners, but I'll move to receive the report. And I just think this is important for us to get as a board, because I know this is going to be coming before us in the future. I know that our staff has been working with the owners of the island, and I'm all for that. Because I certainly do recognize we need tourist destinations, and I think it's one of them. But I do think it's very important for us first to understand the safety components, the public safety components, before we make any type of decision. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Okay, we got a motion to receive the report. Commissioner Owen, second. Commissioner Myers. No other comments. Please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
Thank you, Chief. G5.
Thank you. If we can just get through these staff reports. Item G5 is to receive a briefing on the 2023 hurricane season. And as Mr. Dudley is coming to the podium, we had put this on the agenda before we had a storm, knowing that we were getting to the peak of hurricane season, wanted to talk a little bit about the process. But of course, you all learned a lot about the process very quickly, but we have Tim Dudley here, our emergency manager, to present this item.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Tim Dudley, Office of Emergency Management Director. Thank you for allowing me to give you an update on the 2023 hurricane season. I also have with me this morning my Operations Section Chief, Katia Miller, my Planning Section Chief, C.K. Moore, and my Logistics Section Chief, George Stewart. Officials have us looking at 14 to 21 named storms this year. And also with major storms looking at 2 to 5 as well. We've seen a significant amount of storm already this year. The most recent impact to the Tampa Bay area was Hurricane Idalia. In the response to that last week, Hillsborough County distributed over 71,000 sandbags, also sheltered over 1,400 citizens in the general population, special needs, as well as pets. We are currently conducting recovery operations for Hurricane Idalia at this time, and we're also monitoring Hurricane Lee out in the tropics. No direct threat to Florida at this time, but we're going to continue to monitor that throughout this week. And also, while we're conducting recovery operations, not just here in Hillsborough County, but in the Tampa Bay area, we ask that folks be mindful of scammers posing as FEMA officials going door to door. We ask that you ask for ID, but if you suspect something is not correct, please contact the FEMA helpline at 800-621-3362. So the peak of hurricane season is between August and October. September 10th next week is the actual peak of hurricane season, and September happens to be the National Preparedness Month. And I thank this board for recognizing that as a community, we need to always stay prepared. We have one more day, Friday, to take advantage of the Disaster Preparedness Tax Holiday. The county prepares year-round. Outreach and education are conducted throughout the year. We work closely with communication and digital media along with HCFR to reach an estimated total national local audience of 243 million people thus far this year. The Office of Emergency Management, along with our partners, have participated in multiple training and exercise events. Approximately 700 individuals have visited emergency operation training for training this year. Hillsborough, Pinellas, Pasco held its first joint board county commission regional roundtable for the emergency management update, and I thank this board for taking that initiative and starting this off so we have a regional approach to our readiness. The hazard mitigation team continues to identify projects throughout the county and within vulnerable communities that help to better prepare us for storm hazard events. We were awarded funding for 6 new shelter generators this year. We have distributed 109,000 disaster guides. We've teamed up with Publix to distribute an additional 40,000 guides as well. So now's the time for us to replenish those supplies, prepare our kits, practice our emergency communication plan, and stay alert by signing up for HCFL Alert after we've had such a close one again last week. So stay prepared and stay safe, and I'll stop there for any questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Wostel?
I just wanted to say you guys are great, and I look forward to reallocating a bunch of money to finish expanding that PSOC that you desperately need real soon. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Cohen?
Commissioner Wostel, I completely agree with you. I wanted to just take an opportunity to thank Bonnie, you, and the entire staff, and I know Chief Jones isn't here, but Tim, everything that you do year-round to get the community prepared for these type of events. One of the things that I was very gratified to talk to the administrator about after this particular storm was over was how much our staff is able to learn when they go through one of these events. You know, sometimes it can be years between one of these scares or God forbid something worse than a scare, and some of the staff turns over, people, new technologies emerge, new procedures and protocols emerge, and citizens forget after a period of time about all the preparations that are needed. So every time we have an opportunity to remind people of how important it is to be prepared, how important it is to think about their plan in advance, we can put what we learn to really good use the next time. And hopefully there won't be a next time. We know that there probably will be, and it's a really good thing that we're able to use what we learn and get more and more prepared. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
All right, no other comments? Could just a motion to receive?
Second.
Motion, Commissioner Kemp, second, Commissioner Cohen. Please record your vote.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bonnie, I think we got one item that was pulled.
We do. We have item A37 that was pulled by Commissioner Cameron Cepeda. This is to approve the first modification to the agreement with the Crisis Center of Tampa Bay. And so we have Jean Early here to present this item, and Clara Reynolds from the Crisis Center is here for any questions as well.
All right. Good morning, Jean.
Good morning. I'm Jean Early. I'm the Department Director for Healthcare Services. Agenda item 37 requests your approval of the first modification to the original agreement between Hillsborough County and Crisis Center. And it's for the provision of forensic services at the South Shore Ruskin facility, and it's effective as of January 1st, 2023. It was previously approved by the Board of County Commissioners. It replaces the scope of services in the original agreement to align the on-call nursing examiner's unit of service to make it commensurate with similar crisis center agreements that calls for 24-hour on-call nurse examiners rather than a specified prorated period or an hourly basis. This is consistent with the forensic services being provided and billed for on-call services provided by the sexual assault nurse examiners, sometimes referred to as SANE, at the Tampa Forensic Facility for Sexual Assault Victims. There's no requirement for additional funding on this. It remains as it was originally approved in the first modification and is included in the FY 2023 budget. I'll stop there, and Clara Reynolds is here as well to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Gene. Commissioner Cameron Spada, do you have any comments?
Yes, I'd like to, if we could look at this later, because I had a commissioner future item that I was going to speak on at the end of the meeting today, and this would go with that. So and I think it's very important that we receive a report on the human trafficking, and so I wanted that to kind of go at the same time as we received a report, which I was going to ask for the future items at that time.
Okay, so you would like to cover future issues prior to us considering voting on this?
Yes.
Okay.
Point of order, wouldn't that have to be like, would we have to motion to continue it, or?
I guess.
I do think we're getting to the point where it's getting time sensitive because of the
Right.
end of the fiscal
Yes,
year.
ma'am, that's correct.
So I think that's been our issue
Are you
with this.
okay? Are you comfortable with voting today after you do present your future issues item?
Well, no, I mean, I think that everyone would need to hear the report for the future item first before voting on that.
Can this be taken up on September 20th, or is that too late?
That would be.
That's still.
I think that would be okay, September 20th. I'm looking at Clara. But we have deferred this a few times already.
Right.
Being cognizant of the end of the fiscal year.
Yep.
If it's okay, I'm going to have her address it.
Sure.
As well, if that's okay.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Clara Reynolds with the Crisis Center of Tampa Bay. And Commissioner Cameron Cepeda, if I could understand exactly the question that you have so that I know how to respond.
Well, I wanted some information on the because it's a long story, but for example, these are on-call nurses. They're not there, and there's the salaries of $100,000. They're expected to get 50, maybe 50 people in 1 year. Every person is very, very important, but on-call nurses for $100,000 a year, and maybe they have one a week, and maybe they don't have for a long time, but there's a lot of things I want to discuss with that, yes.
Well, I suggest, again, if we can consider it on September 20th, let's just continue it to that, and then whatever Commissioner Cameron Cepeda brings up future issues item, make sure that it comes at that meeting as well. Sorry to make you stick around all morning.
Yes, I don't know what the future issue item, so I'm hoping
Yep.
we can have it come in September 20th. I think it depends on how much work that's going to involve.
Okay.
But, so.
I mean,
I'd like
unless
to
you
hear
just
it.
want to continue this until after future issues, and then we can make the decision at that point.
That might help, actually.
All right,
And then I
let's
can
just
see if
continue
we
this
can
to.
address it.
We'll continue this to the last item today. Can we have
So
a motion
maybe
to
we can
that?
do future issues,
Yeah,
future
issues
discussion
and-
items
and
now.
And the appointments, and then we'll come to that. So can we have a motion to make this the last
So
item?
moved.
Motion,
Second.
Commissioner Kemp, second Commissioner Wostel. Please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
Okay. So you want to do future issues? Okay.
Yes.
Commissioner Cameron Cepeda?
Yes, so as the Board of County Commissioners representative to the Commission on Human Trafficking, I've spent the last few months reviewing some information related to our important efforts to address human trafficking in Hillsborough County. I think we can all agree that human trafficking is evil, and we must try to stamp it out wherever we find it. Toward the end of my first question is, what metrics are we using to determine whether our efforts to stamp out human trafficking are effective? My next question is Is the funding provided by the county targeted in right ways to reduce human trafficking? For example, in the current fiscal year, the county funded the Crisis Center with approximately $1.3 million in a base contract and then funded an additional $93,000 for coordination care. During the budgeting process last year for this current year's budget, $100,000 also added for a nurse ambassador. Finally, $292,000 was approved in January of this year for a nurse examiner position with 24-hour coverage of the South Shore Community Resource Center. I'd like a staff report on how many people have been served with the county's human trafficking funding. I'd also like to know how many positions are being funded at the Crisis Center with county dollars. And finally, I'd like to know how we can determine that these efforts are as successful as possible, or if there are other strategies that haven't been considered. And please bring back a report within the next, as soon as possible, on how the county's funding is being used to fight human trafficking, along with a summary of the nonprofit staffing supported by county funding and the number of people served since 2020.
Do you have all that?
Well, candidly, it seems like a very extensive report, and I want to be responsive, and I just want to make sure I can meet the agenda deadline, and I don't know if I really can.
Well, one way or the other, we're going to vote on this next meeting, so, or
Yeah,
vote on the
exactly.
837 next meeting, so
We-
get us whatever,
We'll do whatever we can, and then we'll just put this other item on the 20th either way.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Owen?
Yeah, real fast. My future item is Pinellas County just voted 6-0 unanimously on joining in what looks like a class action lawsuit to sue drug manufacturer and pharmacy benefit managers accused of artificially inflating the price of insulin. They said they've been doing this for decades. I don't know if we're similarly situated, so my future item is to direct the county attorney's office to work with the appropriate county departments, including healthcare services, to explore if it is appropriate to recommend to the board the filing of the county of a class action lawsuit similar to the suit filed recently by Pinellas County related to inflated pricing for insulin.
I think that's a great idea, great suggestion. Any other future issues?
Yes.
Commissioner Kemp?
I'd like to ask for information about PFAS. We've all been hearing a lot about that recently. Those are those forever chemicals that are in our water sources. You may have noticed several articles about Central Florida. I have more recently, and then I just felt in the dark about exactly what the situation was here in Hillsborough County with our water, or what studies we might be doing, what results we might be finding, how to look at this here. But I know there is a lot of concern that has been coming with regards to this, so I wanted to have some information.
All right, Commissioner Cohen?
I just want to respond to Commissioner Kemp. Tampa Bay Water is talking about this regularly. We are participating in legal action related to PFAS, and we are in the middle of a testing protocol across Tampa Bay Water's different facilities. And I believe that if you'd like, when Chuck Carden comes on the first meeting in October to address this board, we could ask him to touch on that as well and give you an update on what's being done system-wide.
That would be excellent. And then maybe I don't know if that covers the whole thing or if there's additional information to share from Hillsborough County, but specifically, but both things would be welcome.
All right, thank you. We got just one item, the appointments we need to do.
Yes, sorry, back to item F1. This is your appointment to the Diversity Advisory Council.
So we have 5 vacancies. Commissioner Hagan, there's choose 1 for African American, 1 for Far East Asian, 2 for gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender, and 1 for Northern and Southern European. And the ones Far East Asian, and Northern and Southern European, they only have one applicant. So Commissioner Hagan.
All right, 1, 5, and 6.
Okay. Commissioner Myers.
2, 6, and 7.
Commissioner Cohen.
2, 6, and 7.
Commissioner Kemp.
Oh, 2, 6, and 7?
Commissioner Wostel.
1, 7. 1, 7, and re-add.
So you're making a motion to re-advertise?
Yep, so motion, Commissioner Wostel. Do you have a second? No second? Okay.
So for the African American, we need 4 votes. We have 3 for Brandy Moyer.
I'll switch to Brandy.
And then it will be Jane Tran for Far East Asian. And it will be Jomer Lopez and Alonzo Mejia. And then Teodoro Bassiano.
Okay, give a motion to confirm.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Kemp, second Commissioner Cohen to confirm. Please record your vote.
Commissioner Wilson? Thank you. Motion carried 5-0.
All right, then I think we need a motion just to continue 837 to September 20th.
Second.
Motion to continue Commissioner Meyer, second Commissioner Wostel. Please record your vote.
Motion carried 5-0.
All right. With that, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Paul, the guy that's right there.
How long will the poster be there?
Today.
Okay.
So, but it's on your way out.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
You got it.